I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can I get roll call, please, sir?
Counselor Blevins,
Here.
Counselor Dolzall,
Here.
Counselor Hill. Here. Counselor McElroy,
Here.
Counselor Metcalf,
Here.
Counselor Tenbush,
Here.
Mayor Drinkwine.
Here, thank you very much for that. I will now hand it over to Melanie with the work session city interviews.
Okay, and I'll just comment, typically we have citizen and community group comments right off the bat. Tonight, we're gonna have a little workshop first. And so just thank you for your patience, and I'm glad that everybody's here tonight. So the work session is to do city attorney interviews. Following the untimely passing of our city attorney, Peter Watts, we brought on an interim city attorney, and then that allowed us time to put out a request for proposals for city attorney services. And we received 2 proposals. One is from Bateman Seidel and one is from Cable Houston. And we have representatives of both of those firms here this evening. So I prepared some, or found some questions that might be of interest to utilize during the interview. You don't have to ask those questions by any means, but I just wanted to use those as an assistant, if you needed some ideas on topics. But I think that probably the conversation will go pretty naturally. So I'd like to have Carrie Richter come up to the microphone. She is here with Bateman Seidel, and Melissa Ryan is on Zoom with us tonight. And Carrie and Missy have been acting as our interims. And so you're familiar with them already to a degree, but I'll let you go ahead and maybe let Carrie introduce herself briefly, and then you can go ahead and ask questions.
Hello, Mayor Drinkwine, City Council. My name is Carrie Richter. I'm a lawyer with the firm Bateman Seidel. I was appeared before you, I think in July, where you so gracefully took me on and my colleague Missy Ryan to serve as your temporary city attorneys. At the time, you asked me if we wanted to continue on in a permanent capacity, and I told you I didn't know because I wanted to test drive things. And I've got to tell you, you have an amazing vehicle here. I love working with your staff. They are so committed to the city and the betterment of the city. And that's an operation that I want to join in with. So with that, I'd like to give you an opportunity to ask me any questions. I didn't prepare any lengthy remarks or anything, but I'm happy to talk about whatever comes to mind.
All right, thank you. Jerry, I think you have a question.
Yeah, so as you know, we're discussing a new urban renewal district. And I just want to know what experience you have, starting a new urban renewal district. And we had pretty good success with our current urban renewal district, and we just want to continue that success, and just want to know about your experience with that.
So the city of Oregon City has an urban renewal board and has a number of urban renewal districts that it has had for some time. I was not a member of I was not the city attorney of Oregon City when they created those urban renewal districts, but I have been assisting the city, maintaining them and wrapping them up as they close and move on to other areas. I was involved with the City of Talent. I represented the City of Talent's urban renewal commission right after the fires. They created a number of urban renewal districts in order to provide temporary housing for residents. So that's been my involvement. So I have a pretty good understanding of the statutes. They're pretty straightforward. It's all a statutorily run. And so how you create them is pretty routine in my experience.
Okay, thank you for that. Mike?
Has you or your team been a part of helping the municipality retain more water rights?
I am not a water lawyer. And I don't think my colleague, Melissa Ryan, who's on, this meeting with us, is either. When I've dealt with water rights issues for the city of Oregon City, we've retained independent counsel. I mean, there are just some things that we don't have the expertise to take on, and water law is one of those things that people spend their entire career perfecting. So that is not something I would feel comfortable doing.
Next.
I thought last time we talked, remind me on my memory here, but land use, what was your experience with land use?
Well, I'm gonna let Melissa Ryan, if she wants to answer that question, Melissa, are
Okay.
you on?
I am. Can you see me or just
No.
hear me?
We can definitely hear you. Can't see you.
Okay, I won't shout then. Thank you for confirming that. Thank you, city councilors, for giving Carrie and I the chance to come before you again tonight. Basically my entire career, except for 8 years, has been in land use. I was till recently, until March, I was a board member of LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals. And in that capacity, I had to count, it was over 1,000 appeals. I think it was something like 1,500 appeals of decisions from all over the state. And that allowed me to become very intimate with all of the way the different city and county codes are written. I also served as the rotating board chair 8 times. When you're the board chair, you manage the agency. So you manage the agency's employees and the budget. And so I'm very familiar with state processes and other state agencies as well. But land use is kind of my passion. Hopefully that answers it.
So what I want to say about that, so Melissa Ryan is the, penultimate LUBA referee. And what I think is really important about having her on my team or working with Estacada is she's going to keep you out of LUBA, right? That's the goal, is to ensure that the process is adequately procedurally protected so that you don't go to LUBA. We want to be calling the balls and shots at the ground level, so you stay out of LUBA.
I can appreciate that. So I don't know exactly how to word the question. So the context is, Estacada, we've been told is known as a conservative town from the state. I remember Peter, when he was working, I don't know if he was working with Portland State, but changing the population thing in order to increase the funds, that sort of stuff. I suspect that working with the state will be more difficult as dollars start to diminish in the next year or two. And so can you give me an example of I don't want to say working for an unpopular client, but something like that where you're really needing to make extra efforts to help the community get what's rightfully theirs. Does that make any sense?
Well, I don't think getting what's rightfully yours is an unpopular position to take. I view my role as a person who implements policy. I don't make it. My interest is in doing what is in the best interest of Estacada. And that is not a conservative or a liberal value. That is a city implementation obligation that I have. I'm like a plumber. You tell me where you want to go, and I'm going to give you the options to get there and the risk associated with those options. It is not my job to put it in any lens, give it any gloss. That is not my role. I am your plumber, right? Maybe a nicer dressed plumber, but that is my role. So I don't look at it as I'm taking an unpopular position. I'm going to take a position on your behalf that the city has determined is in its best interest. If I think there's a high risk that you'll lose, I'm going to tell you that. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to take the position and I'm not going to argue it to the best of my ability. And I've been known to do that.
Have you or your firm argued any memorable cases that you can mention against the state and come out winning?
Against the state.
Like the state was trying to impose. So I think the question he was asking was like for an example of a case where you guys have represented someone that might be. Have you represented any of the cities that you represented against the state and prevailed in a case that you might be able to just explain to us?
Well, I haven't represented the cities in a case against the state and prevailed. I have represented the city of Oregon City, and Sherwood in their in joining the city of Corvallis and challenging the voter approved annexation obligations that prohibit local governments from implementing their voter approved annexations. You may recall that Senate Bill 1537, I believe it was, from 2018, many charters had requirements that you had to have voter approval to annex land, and the state preempted that, and a number of cities joined together and tried to challenge that, and they were unsuccessful at the Court of Appeals. So that's an example where I have lost. I was involved with a historic preservation question with respect to state law that had to do with one of the oldest farmhouses in Lake Oswego. And we argued that case at the Oregon Supreme Court and prevailed. But that was, I represented the city of the Dalles, the city of LeGrand, Pendleton, and Ashland. And they joined the private property owner with me, and I filed an amicus brief on their behalf. So
Thank you.
that's another example.
Matthew, do you have anything?
No, I think Jonathan hit on it. We just want to make sure that this is a majority conservative city, and regardless of political views, will you stand with our city regardless of what the state is pushing? So.
Absolutely. And I think that if you look at I represent the tiniest cities, River Grove, Island City, up to city of Sherwood, which I would say if I were to plot out on a conservative to liberal spectrum, I would put them on the conservative side. Oregon City, I think, is more conservative. Sherwood is 20,000 people, Oregon City is 35,000 people, and we now represent Washington County, which is a whole lot more than that. So I feel like you are going to get the benefit of that broad experiential representation. So for example, I'm coming in 2 weeks to give a sort of land use 101 to your planning commission. And as luck would have it, I happen to do this for many of my other cities, so I don't have to write the new PowerPoint. I'm going to be able to recycle the PowerPoint that I've already put together. Questions about changes in legislation with respect to housing. I don't have to go learn those things because I'm learning them as we go, and I'm able to educate the broader cities that we all represent. So I think that works in your favor too.
Okay. Any more questions at the table?
I have one more.
Jonathan, go ahead first.
Ultimately, there's two of you, hypothetically, correct?
There
So
are,
how do we?
not even hypothetically, really.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, if you were to take the position, how do we make sure that all the information, are you guys going to be here together each time, or is it going to be intermittent, or how does that work?
So the way we usually organize, first of all, Melissa and I communicate almost every day. And the way we usually organize is that one person is going to take a project and then they'll see it through. So you'll recall that Missy was here at your August meeting. August? Yes, August meeting. To talk about the marijuana prohibition ordinance. And she is gonna stay on tonight so that she can see that through. And she would have been here to cover the whole meeting, but we thought it was important that I was here too, since I've been the face of this application all along.
Okay. And just one last statement, and this is not a question. This is just a statement to the fact that we've worked with both of you so far. And I find you to be very professional. So thank you for that, no matter what happens tonight. We appreciate you and you've done a good job. So that said, we'll continue on to the next one, and thank you very much for answering.
Thank
those
you.
questions.
Thank you. All right, while we're changing over here, I'm gonna have Laura Westmeyer come up here to the microphone. She's with Cable Houston. And is anybody on Zoom with you? Are you? Nope. Just, okay, so this is perfect, just in the room. And I also wanted to call the council's attention to the RFP that we had put out, and we had planned out a timeline in that RFP that at the, you wouldn't have to make a final decision tonight. You could do the interviews tonight, and then we would do at your next meeting deliberation. If you'd like us to call somebody back, you could do that, but deliberate it and make a decision at the next meeting. However, then we also, the council really wanted to have a kind of a picnic and Q&A time with the community. So we scheduled that for your next meeting, actually. So now the follow-up deliberation will be at your meeting on October 13th. And so I wanted to make that, make everybody aware of that it'll be October 13th. Come back, you'll be able to deliberate on the proposals, gives you more time to review them in light of the questions that you're able to ask tonight, and then make a decision and provide some direction, if that's the way that you'd like to go.
Great. I think that would be something that looks good to me. Give us time, process what we're hearing tonight. I don't know how you feel about that, but is that something that we could all go consensus on there, is to make our decision based upon that meeting?
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Yes.
The 13th.
Give you the time to
October
absorb
13th.
everything that you hear here tonight.
Yeah.
You know, okay.
All right, Laura, thank you for being here tonight, and I'll let you introduce yourself, and then council can ask some questions, or you can ask questions of them. I guess we should allow you, since we are just meeting you for the first time, you may have some questions for us too.
Thank you. Mayor Drinkwine, councilors. Am I picking
I
up?
think you just have to be a little closer, yeah.
Thank you for having me here tonight. Laura Westmeyer, I'm an attorney with Cable Houston. We're just down the road in Portland. We have, as a way of introduction of my firm, although you have it in in the proposal we provided in the packet today, Cable Houston has about 26 attorneys. We are a full service general counsel work. So we do everything from private to public work. We have a team of dedicated municipal attorneys. That includes in our litigation department, our land use department, general governments department, elections, and we all work together on our public clients. Our public clients are primarily special districts. So we do a lot of water districts, a lot of wastewater treatment plant districts, sanitary sewer districts, rather, fire districts. Also, we work with cities and counties as special counsel and general counsel. So really runs the gamut of any kind of local government that we have in Oregon. So that's what we do at Cable Houston. And we've done that. Our public clients were our first clients back 35 years ago. So we've always had a really strong public sector representation.
Great.
For myself, just a brief introduction. I came to the firm in 2017. I was at that time already a city attorney and moved on to create a more broader perspective of having more experience with a variety of public entities. Government is what I have done for about 17 years. I worked as a staff city planner and land use planner prior to entering law. And in the legal field, I worked for the federal government, state government, counties, and cities, and going down to single purpose governments. So really, essentially every level of government I have experience in both criminal and civil law. Obviously right now I'm dedicated to civil law, and I really just enjoy government work.
That's excellent. Start the questions. Jerry, go ahead.
I'm gonna pose the same question to you that I posed to Carrie. We are sunsetting an urban renewal district, and we're discussing, starting a new urban renewal district. And just want to know what experience you have with closing urban renewal and then opening a new district. So
Well, so I'll say first in terms of district work is really what we do quite a bit of. So the most recent experience that I have personally and probably with my firm is we worked on the dissolution of the Oak Lodge Water Services District and the formation of the Oak Lodge Water Services Authority, which was September 22 in the last 2 years. And myself and another attorney at my firm were the two attorneys who worked on that whole effort over a period of probably 3 years in terms of public outreach and starting to advise staff on their options.
Okay.
Same question as I asked before. Have you or your firm been a part of helping a municipality secure additional water rights? The process of working through getting additional water rights. We're going to be working on that over the next 5-10 years. The need for securing more water rights have you guys been a part of that at all?
Yeah, I would say, Counselor McElroy, probably similar to Carrie, we don't have, we have one attorney who works on water rights, who's pretty close to retirement at this point. So we would probably refer out for any really specialized water rights work. I will say there are a variety of ways to acquire water rights. So it really depends on the question. We certainly work with a number of private property owners in terms of transferring and conveying water rights in a more localized area. So it depends on that, how the water rights would be acquired.
Thank you.
So my question has to do with how many small cities like ours have you represented? And then to kind of piggyback off of Councilman Dolza, our community is the center of our focus. And sometimes our community's vision does not align with, say, the governor's agenda for the state. And in what cases can you say, or have you had experience in, say, standing with a city or some other client in that facet that would go against, say, a government agency or this, or something larger like the state, something, like what experience do you have defending, say, a small rural community that's trying to protect its values from being overridden by like an agenda by the governor for housing or something, say?
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Metcalf. I would say in terms of your first question, I don't have a number off the top of my head because it's many small cities that we work with and that I have personally worked with on discrete issues as special counsel. So for example, one area that my firm specializes in is condemnation, and that's a pretty specialized area of law similar to water rights. And so many public entities approach us if they have a need for condemnation or eminent domain work. Similar with franchise agreements or franchise agreements is an area that I have specifically worked with cities on. In terms of general counsel work, we have the city of Mosier would be the smallest at about 600 people.
That's fine.
And for your second question, Councilor Metcalf, I would say, I think that just looking at, in preparation for meeting with you all tonight, I did look over your budget and your kind of recent public meetings and see that you have been very proactive with your staff at reviewing policies and making sure you're going to be able to be well set up for what you're looking for in terms of funding and to be resilient in terms of any changing conditions or changing requirements. And I would say that's a really good approach. And that's what I would look to continue. Just proactively thinking what's going to happen at the federal level and at the state level, trickling down in terms of our infrastructure projects and what we're trying to accomplish. How are we going to make sure we're not going to, we're going to be well set up to do that?
Thank you.
So the context of my question is the same as I stated previously. The question's a little bit different, and I know I've heard that you're not supposed to ask a question that you don't know the answer to, but this is not my realm. And so in the role as a city attorney, how often are you interacting with, say, staff of elected officials down in Salem or other departments down in Salem? How often is the city attorney going to be interacting with them? And then the follow on to that is, what's that Rolodex look like for you?
Well, I'd say that depends on, in terms of what we already do, that depends on how a jurisdiction wants to set it up. Many of our clients do have their own lobbyists. And so that's apart from the city attorney or the general counsel for that entity. So you might set up like that depending on what project you're looking for funding or support with. In terms of our legislative work in Salem, most of it is through Special Districts of Oregon Association. That's one of our clients who we represent. So we're looking at changes in law and advising on how that's going to affect our public clients. Did that answer your question?
Well, the context of the water. I remember when there was trips down to Salem to see what they could do for funding, and Peter was involved with those, right?
Back in the, yeah, no, I don't know if he was really involved.
Not as much. He was more involved with our, like you mentioned, PSU, when we were in debate with them. But not as much with going to Salem necessarily.
Because that was the context of what I was looking for is basically, what the Rolodex looks like for you down there. Are there what your contacts are like, not specifically, of course, but what your contacts are like for someone in I can't even think of a department down there. Yeah, transportation, whatever it is, but just looking for, so that, oh yeah, I know somebody, let me give them a call, something like that. If you've got that kind of network, I guess is a way to put it.
Well, I would say, Counselor, that it will entirely depend on the issue that we're talking about and kind of the realm that we're talking about. But certainly one benefit of looking to appoint maybe a firm of a medium or large size for our area is that we have, at least 26 attorneys and all of their networks, and not just me in my smaller bubble.
So you have one more?
Yeah, I just got one more. Why do you want to work for us or with us more? Like, why Estacada?
Estacada, well, if it didn't come across earlier, I really just love government. Governments of all levels, and cities are the most exciting to me because you are really directly accountable to your constituents and the people in this room. Estacada is of interest to me because you have such an active and participatory citizenship and council, and that's always a real pleasure to work with. You can see by the presence in this room, by the number of public comments you receive, and the votes going in different directions, that you have a really passionate, engaged governing body and community. And that's one of the things I really enjoy working with. It makes my job exciting and engaging. And so that's something I really look forward to being a part of.
Thank you.
Okay. Matthew first. And
So yeah, Estacada is growing. Do you have experience with dealing with growth faster than infrastructure, dealing with contractors and dealing with making sure they're staying within the realms of their requirements to that effect.
Counselor Bevins, I would say more, yes, on a daily basis. Public contracting is a major area of general government law. I spent most of my day looking at EJCDC contract documents for an infrastructure project for a new wastewater treatment plant. So there's, I guess the way to answer that is to say there's a lot of front end work that goes into making a project successful, and in the timeline that you're looking for, and making sure that can happen based on the conditions and the requirements and the off ramps and things that you have in the contract off the bat. So our role as the city attorney would be to make sure we really are thorough on the front end and getting involved very early on in the process of a project to make sure that you're setting yourselves up right. Because once the project has started, hopefully we have minimal involvement at that point, because it's already set up to know what to do and how to resolve disputes and timelines from there.
Okay, thank you. Melanie.
Right, this is, maybe seems like one of the smaller elements, but how comfortable are you with just guiding us through a meeting? Sometimes a motion might get confusing, or the process of getting something approved or making a revision to it as we're working through something. Are you comfortable with guiding us through the rules of like Robert's Rules of Order and what's our appropriate, keeping us on track with the details of our meeting?
Yes, absolutely. We love to be the procedural person in the in the room. I think for you, it really looks like you have a pretty experienced counsel right now, but that's not always the case for our entities. We have people who have never worked in government before, and so yes, very comfortable doing that, and interrupting if you allow me to interrupt at meetings to make sure that we're following procedure.
And just one last statement, I can see your passion and I can appreciate that. I definitely think you enjoy what you do, and that is a good thing. So we're really looking at that. I love the passion. Thank you. Okay, is that all the questions? Anybody feel comfortable going forward? All right. So we will make our decision on the October meeting.
We'll have it on the agenda for October 13th to deliberate. I think both of the candidates are obviously qualified.
Definitely.
So you can deliberate and make a decision at that October 13th meeting and give us some direction from there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you,
Thank
Carrie.
you.
Okay, we are now at citizen and community group comments. I have quite a few, so I'll start off at the top here. Shirley Burke.
Okay, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse sometimes. This is over Arrow again. I have senior citizens and low-income people coming to me and saying, why are we forced to have yard debris when we don't have yard debris? And I said, I don't know. But the thing is, they are the only utility department does not have yard debris, senior citizen discounts or low income. The electric, everything has low income for seniors, but Arrow does not do that at all. And I know you guys have a franchise with them, but the senior citizens in this town, and I'm low income, but I can manage but people need to know why. There was a lot of people that didn't need yard debris, but there's a lot of people that don't need yard debris year round. I would love to have yard debris, say from March to September. That's fine, because that's when you have yard debris. But from then on, I have no yard debris. I mean, they've picked up my yard debris maybe 3 times in the last 3 months. That's how much yard debris I have. And other than that too, and also the houses on Eagle Creek Highway on the east side, or the ones, they are not annexed into the city? The ones.
Some of them are, some of them are not.
Okay, because either the city needs to use the ordinance that we have for keeping the property clean, or they need to go to the county and say, the county needs to go to these people. I don't know, there's a couple of houses down there that's got garbage up this high. The blue house for one, across from the churches. Not only brings mice, whatever, but I really would like to figure out something with Arrow. They said they would call me back and work on this, the low income for the seniors, and I haven't heard a word from him. And Josh was working with me, but he left the company. So.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, Shirley, we appreciate that, and I'll look into that with Josh. I can get a hold of him still.
well, can you? Because there's a lot of seniors that can't afford to pay this money during the wintertime. I'm lucky, I have solar, so I have one less bill, so,
I completely understand.
thank you.
All right. If I get that name right. Jordan. I'm gonna try this. Jordan Lachinsky, is that right? Okay. You had me going there. I was trying to figure it out.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Jordan Lachinsky, Austrian, so you got it right.
Hey.
We are in the Faraday Hills new development, and we are here to advocate and to ask for help for safer streets. The speeding is horrible, specifically on Curran Creek Drive, which is where we're located. To me, like, my favorite part about growing up in a neighborhood was getting to play outside and having all my friends out there, and it does not feel safe enough to have our kids, obviously supervised, but not even be out there in the front yard. We have no street signs, no speed limit signs, and in all of Holt, the Holt section, Holt development, we have a pathway for the trail that's not marked. And so when people come up that hill with all the street parking, it's really hard to see. Sorry, not close enough to the microphone. Really hard to see when people are crossing. And I mean, I can sit out there and people go 35, 40 miles per hour to cut through all day long. There's not it's not just construction people. It's not one type of person. It's so many different people who are speeding through that. And I understand the idea of cutting through. It is much faster, from Cascade Ridge, or I think Cascadia Ridge, to get down to Eagle Creek. Totally get that. But just we're asking you to be respectful with that, and hoping that the city can help us with something, either speed limit signs or flashing signs or speed humps or whatever that might look like. But we need something in place because it is horrible. It's very scary, and something is going to happen. And I hate to say that, but it's bad.
And I think everybody at this table, I can assure you, is on that same wavelength.
Yeah.
This has been an ongoing issue, which we've been trying to find ways to slow this down and take care of this problem. With the growth that we've seen, that's been an issue.
Yes.
And the fact that Deuce Road has also been closed off. So they've been coming through the developments and causing more traffic than usual.
Yeah.
Has been an ongoing problem as well, but we are definitely looking into this and addressing it in any way we can.
Yeah.
In
thank
several
you.
different fashions. So
Okay.
you'll be seeing some changes.
Okay, thank you so much.
All
And
right.
just a shout out to the Traffic and Safety Committee. They came through our neighborhood and gave us great signs. And I have seen some people slowing down, so that's good. Because a lot of times we'll be outside and people won't care and they won't slow down. So we're just asking, and it's not just me, my whole neighborhood, we're asking, please, can you help us put something in place to help the speeding?
Well, keeping that little guy safe is our
Yeah,
main
I
concern.
have 3 of them. They want to play outside and they want to feel safe, and I want to have, a safe place where they can ride bikes and scooters. And right now it doesn't feel like that. So,
I'm with you.
all right.
We're all with you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Okay, next I have Matt Suits.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I was just asked the same question. I'm a close neighbor of Jordan and her husband. Another resident asked me about that also today, and I thought I read somewhere actually that the humps like they have on the Hillway are under consideration. So I wanted to mention that. That's optimistic thing. My actual subject is on water with the current restrictions we sometimes have, and also the latest memo from the city about the fish having more water for, it's almost like coho season and stuff, I know. I was wondering if the city could help, what it would take a petition from a number of citizens to get consent agenda or something to discuss allowing xeriscape where we have a HOA, kind of like now, where there's water restrictions. If the HOA were to find somebody for their grass turning brown, you know, there's provisions for that. I was wondering, with the new tank being built, if that will mitigate really any of those circumstances where we're getting low on water, or if that's not really a way that could ever be guaranteed. I was sure that was engineered kind of stuff. I was wondering if that was just dependent on the capacity of the system on the, I think, residential equivalent units or something like that. And then with all the landscaping, the street trees need more water, and so on. So I was just wondering what steps a citizen could take to encourage xeriscaping, or if there's a consensus that with Estacadas growth, is that at the possibly the state level, and is, you know, come in line and something like that. And then I'll just return to my seat and listen for your answer. Thanks.
Sure. Melanie, I'll let you answer that question, kind of get an
Well,
idea.
yeah, I can give a quick little
Just
update on where
synopsis.
we're at, and then Matt can get back with you with some more details. So we are with new subdivisions that might be applied for as we're doing the conditions of approval. We'll be more conscientious about saying what can be allowed, and that we're trying to find a way to phrase it so that they don't impact natural resources by their requirements. And we will have that new reservoir, which will help. We're also meeting next week, and then we're in the process of working on upgrading our water plant, which will help tremendously to ease the pressure in the summer. Right now, we're down to about 1 million gallons a day, so you can tell we're heading back down where people aren't needing as much, which is really helpful. We'll probably take that graph off the website pretty soon. And but conservation is always important. We want people to have the water they need, but we don't want them to have to feel like they're over watering because of other restrictions, and we don't want water wasted. But we're working on that. What we can do with current HOAs, I'm not exactly sure, because those are private contracts typically, but we can talk some more about what we are continuing to look at opportunities for how to improve that. But upgrading the plant is definitely on the list.
All right. I hope that answered some of it. We'll try to get back to you with a little bit more concise answer. But yes, we are working towards that. So thank you. Gavin Hayes.
Thank you all for having me. First off, I want to thank everyone on the city council, traffic and safety. I'm here from Campanella, the infamous Hillway. I think I'm the only one here tonight for Hillway, so you're welcome. We had the car counters in. Thank you. We had the car counters in before and after. Looking at all the numbers beforehand, we had 260 to 270 cars down Hillway average per day. It's the number of houses in there. After we punched through, that's 2,200 cars a day on average. I know that when we moved in, Hillway was opening. We all knew it. It wasn't a secret. I don't think anyone expected that much of an increase going through. I know Deuce was closed. That impacts it. The stop signs have massively helped. I think there's still more we can do. One intersection that jumps out at me is the three-way intersection at Forest Park and Hill. When you first come down off Cemetery through the new expansion, there's a crosswalk there that is not taped on the road. There is no stop signs. In the morning, people coming off the hill, it's a blind corner coming into the residential neighborhood. You're coasting down a hill at 35, 40. We had a max speed of 53 miles an hour down a residential neighborhood. I'd love to see a speed bump in that new section of hill up along the ballparks and that stop sign. I understand space-wise, there's not much more space for speed bumps. We still haven't figured out the difference between a speed bump and a speed hump from last time. So mainly here to just say thank you guys for listening.
We thank you for bringing it forward. And like I said, this is an ongoing issue, as you know. And we've been trying to tirelessly figure out how we can slow traffic.
I think we can sit here tonight and listen to them.
That's it. But we are working towards that same direction, and we will do as much as we possibly can within the laws to slow that traffic down.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I came up on that intersection that you're speaking. It's right when you come where the crosswalk is when you first come in. And I was coming from the Eagle Creek side, and there was a gentleman in a wheelchair that was coming across there into that crosswalk, and someone slammed on their brakes. I agree with you. The side triangle, I stopped to look at that because there's a fence that's really close right up against the sidewalk there.
Yeah.
So they're popping out of that fence, and it's like, they should be going this. I mean, even someone going 25 there, if someone in a wheelchair is to pop out in a power wheelchair onto that crosswalk at 25 at the last second coming from behind that fence, I think it's going to be an issue. And I think a stop sign would be great there. Because it was really close, like within a couple of feet of hitting someone in a wheelchair. It was a scary spot. Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's not as bad coming from the other side, but coming from that side where the fence is, it's just, you just pop out. It's a scary spot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Melanie and I and Dawn, we walked Hillway or Campanella, excuse me, as well. I live there as well in the neighborhood. You see me around, I'm sure. And I will tell you that this was a good, I believe, first step to immediately try to rectify this and slow it down, especially the aesthetic and the awareness piece of this. I feel like that was a strong start, but there is conversation about liberty as well. You didn't mention that, but just so you know, this wasn't a stop. This was a working agreement to try to show you that we're listening and try to do something proactive versus reactive, like the gal before you just said.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is that all the return questions we have? That really good. Okay, Kathy Eckenbush is Erlenbush. I'm sorry. I'm always going to get one wrong.
I'm just gonna piggyback on Jordan's. I live right next to Jordan about the traffic, especially up Curran Creek, but also the Cascadia Ridge, a lot of the hills around there. And I've been reading some about speed bumps versus speed humps, and I think I understand that a neighborhood would more likely benefit from a speed hump. But I also realize there's concern about EMT vehicles, how every speed hump will slow them down 20 seconds to their destination. And that some neighborhoods aren't using speed humps. They're going more for the radar, you know, the flashing, slow down, slow down. And I'm not sure what is gonna make the difference, but there's no age limit. Everybody, so many people are going up and down that street, and we have so many cars, RVs, basketball hoops, everything parked along the street. Anything could come out, even if you're going 15 miles an hour. And people just don't realize that. And lately I've noticed a lot of kids have these new electric little mini bikes or dirt bikes or scooters, and they are the worst. I mean, they're not even thinking. They're going so fast without helmets. And I know kids don't, they don't think of consequences, but to me, that's just another reason for the adults or the council to come up with some way to slow the traffic down, probably throughout that whole neighborhood, not just on our street. And I know that there's 8% grade, speed humps work. If it's more than that, they don't like to put them in. And I measured our grades 10%. So I'm not sure if that means an automatic no speed hump. But I would like to know what we can do as the neighborhood, what first steps we can do to help and get advice and information you might need to help you. You said you kind of been working on things, and would you be able to share some of those with us, or?
Yeah, all the conversations I think that we've had today about speed humps, speed bumps, stop signs, flashing signs, I think every one of those has come up within the last 3 city council meetings. And it's a tough choice because you have people weighing in from different angles. We have our EMTs and our fire department telling us that speed bumps are horrible on their vehicles to get over in a case of emergency, as you stated. Flashing lights, if the sun's not out, and we use solar, you know what happens there. We lose the advantage. Having enough stop signs up, well, that's been successful so far from what I've seen in the last few weeks of the ones that were put up. So all these different things we are looking at and that we have talked about. And a lot of them we're putting into play as fast as we can get them done. And that's pretty much what we've been working on. And enforcement. And enforcement's been the tough one because we can't have a police officer everywhere we'd like.
Financially, is it within the budget to look at some of these options, or is that part of a problem?
No. I think, with the amount of houses going in and the fact that we've been very responsible with our budget, the budget is there. It's just a matter of finding where it's best beneficial.
Right.
And we have to figure out which area to attack first. It's kind of like staying ahead of it, so we've been hitting the stop signs have been the big one lately. Next will be something else. The speed humps will come back into effect because I still think we need quite a few of those. But the amount of growth that we've seen and the amount of drivers that are new to our area and driving in this area has been a big problem. And I've seen that more than anything. Not knowing what to expect around the next corner. A lot of us grew up here. We know what each street does and what it ends and where it starts.
Yeah, that's a whole new.
That's a whole
neighborhood.
nother, yeah.
And a lot of Curran Creek is just a straightaway 4 blocks downhill. And that's where we see them, they're just going down that hill, going up the hill. Every age group, not just teenagers.
No.
Construction workers. Yeah, and signage is good when everyone has their little guys with the flags, but we put them too far out in the street and the HOA finds us. You don't put them far out in the street, then all the cars hide them. So.
And I'm sorry about the HOA
Well, they
issue.
don't
That's an ongoing thing,
It had
HOAs
nothing
and
to do
city.
with these speed humps.
I can't speak to everything that an HOA brings with it,
Yeah.
but it is an ongoing problem, but we'll deal with that as we go along. But we are working and striving for new ways to solve this issue.
So
And we're doing it vigilantly, so nobody's dropping the ball.
I'm sure. So is there a way for myself and my neighbor to kind of not keep track, but know how your progress is going? Oh,
Sorry about that. Sorry about the cherry. Go ahead.
I'm done, I guess.
We have a 3-minute time limit.
Oh,
Sorry
sorry.
about that. That's all right.
So one thing, that, I've been saying for a long time, the one thing that we can do is drive through other people's neighborhoods the way we would want people to drive through our own.
Yeah, I know.
And a lot of people respect that, and a lot of people do that, but there's those people out there that don't. They drive through their own neighborhood at 15 miles an hour, but as soon as they hit another neighborhood, they're 25, 30 miles an hour.
Yep.
So I mean, that's the first step is, just for everybody to drive through other people's neighborhoods the way you would want somebody to drive through your own.
Mhm.
Traffic in the city of Estacada, speeding it's a citywide issue. It's not just a particular neighborhood. We're seeing it over the entire, the entirety of the city. And it is a work in progress. We are, the city staff is working on it, the counselors are, working on it in their own ways. But it is something that, safe driving in Estacada starts with us.
Right.
We drive responsibly. Hopefully the next person, or the people behind you will drive responsibly and not be jerks and push you, come up on you. But, I mean, that's just that's where we can start, is just by, like I said, respecting the other neighborhoods. And, I drive through, Campanella Estates twice a day, once at 6 a.m., once around 5 p.m. And, I'm 15 miles an hour roughly through that entire neighborhood. I don't care if anybody's honking at me. I don't care if I'm, if I'm making anybody mad. I want to drive through that neighborhood as safely as possible, because I want them driving through my neighborhood as safely as possible. So,
I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what's gonna get people to react. I don't, speed humps, I think that would do it, but I guess I get the negative part of that. So, we stand outside and scream at people, that go by, and they usually just give us the bird. So, anyways.
Well,
Counselor
so
Hill
I
had
guess-
we're there for you.
Okay, so I guess my last little question is, can we somehow know of the progress the council's making, or is it not?
Well, you're gonna see the progress, I hope.
Very-
It's not something we have to tell you.
Impatient.
Yeah. But if it'll help you, I'm a mayor that's a hands-on mayor.
Yep, okay,
So I'm in your neighborhood quite a bit,
okay.
and I will give you my personal number, and you will know what we are doing on a
Okay.
constant basis. If that helps you in any
Okay,
way.
I'm sorry, it took more than 3
Yeah.
minutes.
Anybody else?
Yes, I have a question, too, actually. Is that area of which this traffic's happening, is that just a detour for other people that don't live in that neighborhood?
No, well, well, Deuce was closed, so we had more traffic.
Okay.
Deuce is back open, but it's still quicker to go up Deuce, go up Curran and get to homes rather than by the high school and out that way.
Great, thank you for clarifying
Yeah.
that. So my next question might be geared more towards Carrie. What is the policy on local access only signs?
Of what?
Local access only signs? I don't know if you
Oh.
guys are familiar with those.
That's a through street. There's some of our streets, sorry, Carrie, I took your comment, but some of the streets do just pretty much access the homes in that little neighborhood. Curran Creek is a through street.
Oh, okay.
And so, but the council has been so supportive of this, and we have some new speed humps going in the next month or two. And on Sweetwater, they're planned for. And then we'll need to look at what concurrently, how Curran Creek could, I think the radar feedback signs would probably be where we'd start with there. But yeah, those are places that we've been hearing they need help, and the
There's
council.
so many children.
yeah.
John.
I want to answer one question that I think is really important that you asked. You asked, what can we do, the community, right? That's what you really want the answer for. Exactly what you're doing right now. You can show up and advocate for yourself, because I can promise you that every person sitting on this panel cares, and we hear you.
Yeah.
Although we can't snap our finger and turn the lights on, I wish, I'm not being sarcastic. I wish sometimes we could, especially about this stuff that involves our kids.
I know, it's time consuming.
But you getting your neighbors and you voicing your concerns is exactly how you start this process. And you did tonight.
So
So
come
thank
every
you.
month.
I would. But I thank you anyway. I gotta move along here because I.
Okay, thank you.
No,
for
we
listening
appreciate you
and-
tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Brian Weber.
Mary Dunquang. Excuse
How are
me,
you, sir?
I guess sit closer. Mary Dunquang. My name is Brian, council. My name is Brian. Come from Faraday Hills. I live on Curran Creek. Just echoing what I know you guys have heard now in spades, looking to ways to slow down traffic and get some visibility on that. I like what you guys have done on Hillway and working with Campanella Estates. I love the speed bump humps, whatever you want to call them. I think those are great. The stop signs are great. And I'm just here with my neighbors looking for, sounds like we've got some motion starting to look at slowing the traffic down and to getting people to slow down and getting some visibility on that. I did review on your guys' website the speed bump rules that you guys post. And I can see where, you know, that being on a hill maybe can't get speed bumps on that, but here's the council. You guys can change that. So, yeah, I'm just here with my neighbors advocating for that. Me as a car enthusiast, man, put speed bumps in, make us slow the hell down. I go slow. I drive it exactly like you're saying. You know, treat others how you want to be treated. Drive through your neighborhood, drive through other neighborhoods, how you would drive through your neighborhood. Some people don't get that. But me as a car enthusiast with a lowered car, other neighbors with lowered cars, put those speed bumps in, please. We want them. We're here. And you've heard from 6 of us already tonight.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
That's what I have for you guys.
Thank you. All right. Appreciate that. Okay. Aaron Lamb.
Hello, my name's Aaron Lamb. Good to see some of you again. It's been 8 to 10 months. I'm here to speak on the cannabis moratorium. I have a cannabis processing business out in the industrial park. I'm just hoping that we can not put the moratorium into place. You know, I understand that in the past, a lot of the cannabis businesses that have come into the city have not played by the rules, have not been the best of people, of business owners possibly, and that speaks to the industry as a whole. Unfortunately, with a brand new industry, you have a bunch of people coming in looking to make as much money as possible and not necessarily caring about the city, the people they affect, and everything else. The market has matured quite a bit since, you know, cannabis first came into Oregon. When I first started in 2017, just to make, you know, give us some insight into the market and its current state, you know, cannabis processors were charging $100 to $125 a pound for processing. You know, 2022 comes around, we're charging $50 a pound for processing. Now in 2025, we're charging $10 a pound for processing. The price of flower on the shelves has dropped by the same, you know, margin. Finished extracts, the same. We're competing not only against ourselves here in Oregon, but also against now people in other states that are operating under hemp licenses, that are operating in the gray area and selling the same products that we're restricted to sell in Oregon online to the entire country. So when we're being forced into more and more regulations by the state and everybody else, you know, these other people, these other businesses are just operating however they want and selling their product everywhere and kind of taking over the market. I will say that, you know, that being said, you know, a lot of the bad operators in Oregon have come and gone. You know, myself, I'm trying to establish a company where everybody is paid a really, you know, solid wage. I'm happy to say that, you know, nobody in the company makes under $50,000. You know, these people didn't go to college. I'm providing good opportunities for people. Everybody has fully paid for healthcare. You know, I haven't paid myself a cent. I'm really focused on building up the company, building a good environment for my employees to come to. And, you know, I'm sure that, you know, I came in a few months ago. I know my time's almost up, but I came in a few months ago to talk to Melanie about the dispensary. I haven't came back in and pushed any more about that because I completely understand that you do not want retail in the industrial park. And I don't want to do anything that you guys that the city does not want. But in the same token, I hope that you leave it up to the people of the city to make the decision and put it to a vote for them.
Thank you. Okay. Next, I have Brent Dodrow.
Thank you guys for being here again.
Good to have
Appreciate what you're doing for the city. I'm here to make a request. I'm a pastor, one of the pastors at Grace Crossing Bible Church, and our church has been in Estacada since 1958. I've been a part of the ministry for the last 35 years or so. And one of the things we've always desired to do as a church is to be a part of the community and serve the community, and that's shown up in a lot of different ways. We've had way back when our church was on Wade Street, we did loaves and fishes, if some of you remember that, and we served the senior citizens through our building. We've had preschools, we've had daycares, we have had Boy Scouts, we have 2 AA groups using our building. We have a shower ministry where the homeless can come and shower, and we feed them. We've done a lot to try to serve our community. One of the next things we would like to do would be to start a school, kindergarten through 12th grade. As we've pursued that process and met with the city, we found out that as we desire to annex into the city to have a more stable infrastructure, right now our church building is on 4 septic tanks and 2 wells. And we've had some concerns with one of our wells lately. So we've considered, as we're going to start a school, we need to annex into the city, and it just so providentially there's water and sewer in front of our building right now. If you're not aware, we're on Eagle Creek Road, right across the street from the newest subdivision that is going in. Our challenge is, as we annex into the city, we would be North City residential, and that zoning does not allow for schools. And we find that kind of curious because all the other residential zones within the city do allow for schools. So my request is really pretty simple. We would love to ask you to make a text amendment change to the North City residential zone, specifically chapter 16.25.040, to include schools as a conditional use. Our desire is to serve the city, and the city is growing. How about that? And we believe that a Christian school would be a great asset to the community. So as the city council finds that helpful to the city, we'd love you to direct staff to move ahead to pursue that change. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
For me, it's more of a statement. I'm very in favor of this idea. I think it's something that we really need. And I think that you'd be filling a hole and in an area that really needs it. With Faith and Family the way it is today, I think this would be very good for our community. So I'm very much in support of this. I just want to say that right off the bat, but go ahead, council. Anybody have anything they want to add to this?
What are the parameters of children being accepted who don't have family that follows the faith?
Yeah, so there's a lot of policies and procedures that are certainly going into place right now. We will be unashamedly a Christian school, teaching biblical values and a Christian worldview. And so we would accept people who would agree with that and make sure that they don't have any concerns about what we're teaching our children. It will obviously be much different than the public school system as far as what they teach. So yeah, we believe it will be an asset to the whole community.
I could just comment this, we've had Brent come and speak to you first because staff needs to have direction from city council or from planning commission in order to work on the development code, which is where this would go. It would be not just an allowance on their particular, they're not asking like to change their zone to allow a school, but to, I think it was, I don't know why schools were not included in the North City residential zone. It potentially was an oversight. There potentially was a reason. I don't know what that was. So this would change the whole zone. It would we'd have to go through the zoning process or the process, the land use process where it would go through planning commission and be reviewed. There'd be a lot of oversight of it before it finally comes to council. But if there's consensus for the council that we could work on this, we'd have Grace Crossing go ahead and apply for the text amendment. If they wanted to roll it in with the other text changes that we're doing for the development code, as we're bringing that up to speed with the new regulations, then we wouldn't need charge because it would be basically rolled into that. But that's going to take a little longer. So if they'd like us to do something that's particularly at their request, then there would be a fee and they'd apply for the text amendment, we go forward. But we wanted to make sure that council could give staff direction whether or not that's something that is all right to work on.
Brent, what would your preference be? Or would your plan be to do it as a standalone amendment, or would you want it to roll into with the other amendments that are coming through?
Well, we certainly don't have a problem paying any appropriate fees. This zoning issue kind of caught us off guard. We were hoping to start with just a few grades this next fall. So our desire would to have it done as quickly as possible. So whatever avenue would allow that would be best for us.
And we could talk, we could talk with planning and see what the time frame is for the rest of the amendments. Or the rest of the development code changes that we're working on right now. If that's fast enough for them, then they could put that request in, it will be reviewed through that process. If it's not fast enough for them, then they could request that we do it separately.
All right. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right,
Thank you.
we'll get to it. Thank you.
All right. Is there any more clarification you need on that, Melanie, or are you good?
Nope, there's general consensus that the council would direct staff in that direction. We'll
All right.
working on it.
All right, thank you. Larissa Novotny.
Here, we live on the lower part of Current Creek Drive, so right when you turn into from Cascadia Ridge. I'm working on getting speed humps put in, but what I really am interested in is getting the speed lowered. What's the process to get that going? Is that,
This is a conversation I think we were having,
yeah,
probably this last meeting we talked about, I think, from a 25 to a 20. Is that what it was?
oh, I want
I'm
15.
correct in that? I don't know where we were with you, Melanie, on that, but we had discussed that the last meeting and is it possible? Could we do it? What would it take?
Be a large process to
A large process.
change speed limits. We need to start out with doing some speed studies on that road. You're talking about the flat section between Current Creek Drive, or between Cascadia Ridge Drive, and then when it goes
Yeah,
down over the
I
hill.
just think in general, all the neighborhoods need to be lower because let's be real, people see 25 and they gun it to 30. They see 45, they gun it to 50, 55. I mean, you go through Sandy, the speed limit's 25 through most of Sandy. So people are likely going a lot faster than 25. So
We probably discuss it through the council goal setting process and look at it as a larger type of a project. Or unless you want to put it on, well, if you want to put it on the agenda sooner, we'd have to take something else off. So I would recommend, we'll continue to work on we're working through the developments and implementing whether it's a radar feedback sign or whether there's a place for speed humps. We're working through that process and hopefully people will start seeing improvements. Traffic and Public Safety is working on their Drive Safe campaign with yard signs. Our new deputy is starting to have day and night coverage 7 days a week, not coverage, day and night patrol 7 days a week. And so with all of these things coming together, I think talking about it at a goal setting and looking at it as at a larger process, if there was any, it would be unusual. I think it's an unusual thing to reduce the speed in a town all over town. So I think that the council should get some feedback from the community and talk to each other about it as well.
yeah, we're definitely growing so fast. We're feeling the growing pains, but I appreciate your guys' hard work. And I like to see the wheels are starting to roll a little bit. So I really appreciate that because I was getting a little frustrated. Traffic Commission came through and I was like, oh, so people are actually working on this. Okay. Because I thought I was going to have to go in by myself and like hammer at
Traffic
it.
Safety's been on it
So
vigilantly.
yeah, that was a relief.
Everybody up here has been working.
That was a relief to see because we're growing so fast and I just see it, I take my kids to school and all their kids are going to school and they're on scooters and bikes and it gets scary out there. And most of the fast drivers are moms just trying to make it to school on time and then to work. So yeah, I get it, but I appreciate the time you guys are putting into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Connie Redmond.
This is the last comment. All right.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, my. Okay, good evening. Connie Redmond, Chamber of Commerce. Just want to give you a quick update on what's going on with the chamber. We want to thank you for your continued financial support. It made a lot of difference. I think this year we were able to staff an additional day throughout the summer. We're going to be able to do some printing, so that's greatly appreciated. We have 149 paid members, which is about average. We have the chamber fundraiser and auction on Saturday, October 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the community center. Time Travelers is going to be providing the German themed food and adult beverages, and Timbertown Grub will be doing the dessert. Cost is $30 per person, $50 per couple, and $140 for table of 6. And thank you for your support. Any questions about the chamber? Nope. Okay, now Downtown Estacada Commission. Oktoberfest, coming up September 28th from 11 to 7 on Broadway. We have 3 local bands, which is really great. We have the Portland Accordion Club. We have folk dancing. We have over 22 vendors, and that includes the Ford food vendors that will be right there in front of Key Bank. And of course, a variety of arts and crafts and everything. So we can still use some volunteers if you want to volunteer for the pie eating or anything like that. We wouldn't have you eat a pie, just help you judges. Any questions on Oktoberfest?
Just to clarify that, is that Saturday, the 27th or Sunday, the
Oh,
28th?
shoot, it is the 27th.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
It's
Jerry.
okay.
Got too many numbers in my
I
head.
I apologize for missing the meeting this morning.
That's okay. Okay, any questions on Oktoberfest? Okay, finally, the Fungus Association. Don't judge. Thank you to the city for giving us some money. That's going to enable us to put on the Festival of the Fungus this year. That's going to be on November 1st at the high school. We've missed a couple years due to some failure on a part of an accountant to file our nonprofit status. But we're back in the program, and we usually get about 400 to 600 people. So it's really good. Any questions on that?
A lot of fungi show up.
We have a lot of fun guys. Any questions?
Oh,
Okay,
good.
thank you.
All right, any online requests? No? And you've had the one that we had in our packet, I think. We had one in the packet, is that right?
There's one in the packet.
Yeah,
that's-
and I think they read that. Yeah, okay. All right, so moving forward, we are now at the consent agenda. Can I get a motion on the floor, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, I got a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, department and committee reports. I'll start off with you, Melanie.
All right. And I had quite a report here, but I think I will trim it down. So, Taryn, I have a slideshow there. Okay. And my first slide is just a quick shot of the wastewater project. I took those pictures this morning. The gravel trucks were lined up, waiting to get in there on the left, and on the right-hand side, they have created, it's hard to see there, I apologize about that, but they've created kind of a staging area for equipment and the supplies they'll be bringing in. They've also moved the public works storage. There's like the big concrete storage blocks where they can put street sweeper dumpings, or they have gravel or sand that they save there for their project. So that's been moved up there. They're starting to make a lot of progress. We are doing a time lapse video, which is fun. It's about, I think, 6 to 8 seconds a day. So it's super fast, but by the end of the project, it'll be about 20 minutes long. So we'll probably share once we get a little more than 20 seconds there, we'll share it with you. Next slide. For the next council meeting, we will not be here. We actually aren't going to have a meeting. We're going to have a community Q&A up at Campanella Park. We were going to do it at the Wade Creek Park, but That will be beginning construction of we're paving the paths there, the trails there. And so I'm not sure what condition that, I think the community room would still be available, but it might be a little trickier for people to navigate around. So we're going to meet at Campanella Park. Everyone is invited. We will do some type of a picnic with refreshments, something that people can come, have a bite to eat, visit with the council, and then we'll have a facilitated discussion. If people have questions they'd like addressed, you can feel free to email info@cityofestacada.org. And if there's something that might need a little more research or something, otherwise I'm anticipating it'll be based on council interest, which you have shown, is just a little more informal, where people can have maybe more than 3 minutes to discuss things with council. And but we'll have some staff there, and that will be at Campanella Park on September 22nd, beginning at 5:30. We'll also have some informational boards that we will also be taking to the Oktoberfest that following Saturday on the 27th. So we'll kind of have some good opportunities for people to get information as well as ask questions. And next. Okay, this is where I wanted to spend a little more time, because one of the council goals was doing some research this year on facilities improvements. And so staff of our city staff and Healthy Sustainable Communities, John LaGarza, arranged for the council to tour 3 city hall facilities and visit with their staff on topics such as the timeline for building a new city hall, public outreach they did, funding sources, and lessons learned. And this is, we're bringing this up now because when you're going to do a project like this, whether this building is remodeled, we're bursting at the seams to a certain degree. So we could remodel or we could build a new facility, and it takes a lot of public outreach to really see what the community wants. So we started out, next slide, going to Silverton City Hall. Silverton has a population of 10 to 11,000 people, and their building, which is beautiful, cost $21 million. That was buying the property and remediating the brownfields that was there, and then building the building. I'm not going to read through all of that. It'll be on the video if anybody wants to review it, and I can email it to the council. But the way they paid for it is it took 10 years they were talking about it for 10 years, and they were saving money while they were doing that. And then it took about 5 years to design build. So half the funds they had saved, half they financed through government capital. And if we could go to the next slide, that's a picture of their council chambers. It seemed like everybody who was there, this is where the most people were able to come to, including Chief Mendoza. It was comfortable and practical. And I don't know if anybody who was there wants to add any comments to that about things you learned or.
That particular one that you're showing there was probably my favorite as far as the council chambers. The degree of detail on what they did with that and their dais and their whole layout, putting everybody at the same level, but yet giving us an opportunity to have an upgraded area in front of us to make sure that we have everything concise as far as what we're putting out, readers, so we can see what's on the screen that they're looking at and what we're presenting. I just think the overall look of the room was just kind of there for what we need. That was my favorite by far.
It was a beautiful.
Yep.
That was the only one that I made it to, and I was really glad that I was able to make it to that one. I thought Silverton was really well put together. The big takeaway that I had from that was that their big focus was on community buy-in, and I really liked that. They were very, very creative in their approach to get the community involved and make sure that they built something that matches the community's identity and what they represent and where they come from. And I thought that was really particular, and I was very impressed.
Okay, sure.
So I was fortunate enough to make the whole trip and see all of the, like the mayor, to see all of the buildings. And the Silverton's council chambers was definitely my favorite council chambers, but the building itself was my least favorite building. I just think there was a lot of wasted space with that building. I don't think the building actually fit with the fit with their town. I think it was too modern. Didn't really tell you what Silverton was all about. I like the other 2 buildings much more. But like I said, that was my favorite council chambers, just my least favorite building of the group.
Yeah,
Or-
it was a beautiful facility. That room in particular, it was beautiful. The rest of the project, there were some areas where you can see where you want to make sure that you have things very well thought out at the beginning. Don't make pivots mid-stride. And what that looks like when you try to redo a floor plan in the middle of a construction project. It was really unfortunate to see some of so much effort went into the original design that I'm sure that where we see pillars just popping up in the middle of an office, it was it was a very awkward thing to see something that somebody spent $21 million on to have that happen. And I think that it definitely wasn't part of the original design. I wouldn't think it was when they had to modify the floor plan midway. I'd want to make sure that we don't have anything like that happen on our, put all the work on the front end, be well thought out and then execute it well. But they were very accommodating. And the other unfortunate thing was that the police department was in that facility and they just moved into a brand new facility and they were already outgrowing the facility. So just make sure proper planning for the square footage we need if we're going to combine the city hall with any other services in the same space, make sure that we're thinking ahead.
Yeah, the two key takeaways, and I only made it to Silverton, was first, like Mike was saying, with all that planning and things still went awry with the design and build, and it created real space issues. Some of it looked silly with those cross beams and stuff and right in the middle, that sort of thing. So that's a real cautionary lesson about all that time planning and last minute changes did something like that. But frankly, the thing that I was most impressed about with the city itself was, man, they were socking away for that. They were planning and the city was stashing money. And that was just really impressive. So that when they did finally go to the citizens, it was a real conservative financial thing versus what it could have been. And that was very, very impressive.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. Nothing.
That one was also my favorite council chamber, but as far as the exterior facade, it didn't work with the rest of the city. It didn't have that same city feel. And I think if we're gonna move forwards with something like that, Estacada, it has to have an Estacada feel. At least one or two beams outside, wooden beams.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you
anybody
for
else?
the conversation on this. This is what I was hoping, and this will be, we can come back and look at this if, remember the things that are now recorded that we learned. And I appreciate the city of Silverton and the other two cities also just welcoming us in and sharing their lessons learned and what they love about it, what they would do differently. They do have 20 administrative staff. If I took correct notes, 20 administrative staff and 20 police department staff. So they have quite a few people in that building. But next, if you go to the next slide, we went to Monmouth City Hall. They don't have their police department in this building, but it's constructed with CLT. So their population is about the same, a little over 11,000. This was only $9.8 million to construct. Only, I say only, but compared to Silverton's, one tip was to make sure there's storage space. The way they paid for this was a third of it was with urban renewal. A third was departmental, which would be like rates, like I believe it would be rates. I don't know if it was SDCs or not. I'd have to check on that, but for the water and the sewer, because all the administration of those departments is run through this building. And then a third of it they bonded for. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see their council chambers. I'd say we only had a few of us by the time we got here, but it was beautiful with the CLT. That saves time in the construction phase. And they had a lot of that wood look going on. But any other comments on that
Well,
one?
I think this one, the CLT, I like the idea behind it. They use there's different kinds of CLT you can use. Smooth finish, rough, they use the rough look without any concern about what was showing. And I felt that was a little off, but I think the CLT look would have been nice in Estacada with that particular city council chamber in the same layout that they had in the first one.
Okay.
I thought the two combined kind of would have worked here.
Right. Right.
Okay.
The dais, was a straight dais across the thing. So with us, if we were to have discussion, you could, the way it sits now, I would not be able to see Matt. I would not be able to see John. I would have to ask them to lean forward or other people to lean back the way that their dais was set up. I just think and they told, the people that constructed it told them they could not do a curve. And it just didn't make sense. And that, like I said, that was the, I mean, the CLT look was amazing. It was beautiful. The ceiling was too high. The ceiling was too high. But the look was great, but just functionality, it didn't work.
Anybody else?
One tip from them is to bring, they recommended the CMGC process also, but they said bring them on early to help with the design. And then next, we go to the next slide, you'll see Carlton. The population of Carlton is under 2,300 people. And they have 10 employees for administration and police combined, both in this building. They spent $8.8 million. They use government capital for the funding. It has, it's built right on the edge of the street, so it maybe has a little bit of starkness look to it. But when you go inside, in the next slide, this is their council chambers. It doubles as a community space. And the people really liked that. That was really important to them for events, but also for individual use. Just for like a place to study or a cooling or warming place. They had many conversations with the community about how it should look and how it should feel. And they recommended getting an owner's rep. I've talked to Happy Valley also, and they're working on a community center, and they have an owner's rep working with the architect, because architects, you can build anything, but is it the most cost-effective way to do it? And so they have somebody that can speak with the architect and kind of work on that up front versus making changes later. This one we really liked. It seemed like it was very suitable for what Estacada would need. But I think the key here is just to start the conversation, to start talking with the community, to see what, down the road, what they're going to want. I know when the library was built almost 20 years ago, they took this beam structure and carried that onto the library. And I can see that totally happening if there was a new building. But what would the community want to see in it? Our Wade Creek building is used every weekend, multiple times. People love that community space. So what do we need? It was the start of a conversation, getting some ideas. I appreciate you taking the time. For those of you who could just come to one, and for those of you that could go to all. But I guess that goes to my next slide. Is there any questions about other things? Because I just kind of wanted to go through this quickly so we can move on.
I'd like to point one thing out. You can't really tell from that slide, but the wall behind the council was, the way it was designed, almost gave you a headache. So
It's nauseating.
it was very nauseating. I mean, it looked kind of nice at an angle, but it's definitely something you got to keep in mind. It was rough.
On that building, I liked I like their forward thinking. They didn't build a building for what they needed right now or what they needed in 5 years. They built a building for what they were going to need in 20 years. I just like that forward thinking. The one thing one of the takeaways I got from, every stop was storage space. Nobody had enough. And unfortunately, that's the one thing, or that's one of the first things that's value engineered out of a building is storage. And but that's, like I said, the last two places really emphasized storage space. And just want to make sure that that's not something we skimp out on, because it's a necessity. We're seeing it right now with our committees and commissions. We had to rent another storage space down at one of the storage facilities. So storage space is huge, and planning ahead, like I said, don't build for what we need right now or what we're going to need in 5 years. So we need to look ahead for 20. So we're not up against this again before, we've even paid the first one off.
I agree. Space is from having a background of doing events and having storage space with especially multi-purpose rooms that you're going to use them for multiple reasons. It's just nice to have, because if you don't have it, it's a headache for the next event or something that's going to happen. But I did have a question of my own. So when we're making these buildings, are we thinking about security, not like security as a person being there, but like windows, doors, and things like that of that nature? Or
Yeah, that's
taking-
definitely one thing to take into consideration. Access, that last in Carlton, it was very secure.
Yeah.
Who could access which parts of the building, the windows, the doors,
They had-
multiple exits.
They had these little fobs that could be set to different security levels. And, just about every door had a spot for the fob, so it was very secure. Yeah, I mean, and one thing that, that impressed me about all three places is they took the security of their staff into high regards. They really went out of their way to protect their staff. And I liked that. I mean, right now, somebody could walk into our city hall, walk right in that front door and have access to everything. They just got to walk around the corner. They're not going to get very far because, I have faith in our staff, but there's only so much they can do. I really like the security aspect for staff.
It was secure, but it was still welcoming. You didn't notice, you didn't
was
feel like,
nice.
yeah. I think public walking in would have felt very welcome, even though they did have a strong security level. All right.
Anybody else?
Anything else or any other topics? Okay,
Thanks.
all right. That's it for me tonight then.
All right. So we have committees and commissions. Anybody got anything to report on? Dos, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so Estacada Public Library got 4 things. I'd asked how many new items they got last year, and there were 4,410 new items and 638 magazine editions for a total of 5,048 total new items in the library. I thought that was neat. Number 2, they're starting a teen library council to get ideas to attract more teens to the library, focused on grades 8 through 12. The bookmobile, they've actually have now 15 neighborhood stops that they make with the bookmobile, and I thought that was kind of neat. And then not so neat was they're having some issues with bathroom vandalism. And that was it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Great. So the Arts Commission just finished up the summer passport project that they had where members of the community would just check off, they had a passport with like a bingo grid on it, and they checked off events that they did. And those were turned in, and there was basically a lottery for winners. They had a few gift baskets for people, and they pulled the cards, and they're giving out the gift baskets. The other thing that they're working on is poetry. They're still working on poetry in public places. The design for the background was basically selected with a couple of changes being made. They're going to be metal signs with the poetry on them. And then that's pretty much what they talked about there. And then just want to remind everybody, I did miss the downtown Estacada committee meeting this morning, and I'm sorry, but wanted to remind everybody Saturday, the 27th of this month from 11 to 7, Oktoberfest. So I'll be there around 5 p.m. Hope to see people there.
All right. Matthew.
Yeah, I don't have anything from committee, but I would like to point out that there was graffiti and vandalism down on Lakeshore, and stuff was written on the streets and on the walk paths and stuff. I don't know if it was the city that covered it up or another citizen, but it was kind of in bad bad taste to do something like that to our city. Also, I was curious on how that, because I brought up last time the Lakeshore Apartments. I was kind of curious on where that's at now. I keep getting bugged about that by
Yes.
people.
Do you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I thought I had a slide in there about that, and I must have taken it out because it wasn't in there. So I did speak with the property owners. I happened to cross paths with them at the front of City Hall when they were stopping in to ask a question. And they are planning to demolish the annex building, which they've started, the fire district did some practice in there. That building is planning to be taken down, as well as the storage, what used to be storage units, and then some trees are planning to be taken out. Hopefully, they think before the weather turns so that it's still dry. But they are still planning on moving forward. They are very close to getting their building permits. We've considered that we could give them a deadline of when they need to make sure their permits are finalized. If we gave them some, a heads up on a timeline, so that this would continue push to move forward. However, they are very close. And even if we did that and they had to start over, basically, there is a Senate bill that allows for, it's not an allowance, is it an allowance? It's an accommodation to where, it would basically they wouldn't have to change much of their design. So it would be a lot more work for very little change. So they are still intending to move forward with the apartments. I haven't seen any on the ground action though.
So I got a question. If we have to send, I'm hearing a lot more distaste for this apartment complex than even the cannabis issue that we got going on, and we're putting that out to the city to vote on. Is there anything we can do with that, involving the city with that?
Not really. We're kind of in a quandary here. This has been an ongoing process. There's a lot of legal issues involved in this at this point. What they can and cannot do, how far they're going to take it, if they've really filed the proper paperwork, if the ownership is really in their favor, which I do not think it is, but we'd have to push that. So you as a council would have to decide where you want to go with this going forward. In litigation, as you know, you can win or lose. And at the end of the day, the citizens will foot the bill if we lose. I don't agree with the way this process has went through. I don't agree with any of it so far. The way it's handled, the way they've done their part, the due diligence on their part, nothing has been done the way it was supposed to be done. The timelines have all been absorbed. They've put out for extensions through the state up behind us. They've never came in here and given us any assured plan. From what I understand, they filed for an extension on their property to change the lot lines. Now, how is that within the original plan? You can't do that. So there's a lot of things in here that don't make sense to me, that I feel like if it went to court, they would be in trouble. I really do. But it's not my decision to make. It's all of yours going forward. Jonathan.
Well, I'm struggling to understand why you would schedule to demolish a building before you had permits. Like, I don't understand why you would demo the property before they had a working.
Typically a separate permit. Demolition permits typically a separate.
Well, I'm just
permit.
saying we're moving forward on something that they don't even got a, yes, you can do it yet. We're close, isn't yes, this works. And then I'm not saying that toward you, I'm just speaking general. And then also I think like the timeline thing, Melanie, I appreciate that, but they've shown us nothing. And then I remember we talked about, as long as they could say they had reasonable efforts or whatever, are we not the ones that determine reasonable effort or whatever that, however, excuse my.
Right. I
proper
understand.
term, but like, are we not the ones that would determine what that reasonable?
Good faith effort.
Good, thank you. What good faith effort is, because I would say that blowing your timeline by 9 months is not good faith effort. I would say that's.
It has.
With no construction.
With no construction.
Right.
And now you want to change the plans, ask our planning commission behind our back to divide the lot. Right, or they're trying to divide the. make two
They
parcels or
had that question and then it didn't seem to make a difference, so they didn't go forward with that. It was Senate Bill 1537 so this is where we should put this on the agenda if you want to talk about it more, but that particular Senate bill allows an adjustment from a prohibition against residential uses on the ground floor, which is basically the change in the code that happened is it was requiring commercial on the ground floor on part of those buildings. So we'd have to weigh whether it's worth the effort to make the applicant start over. But I will continue to follow on with whether their building permit has been approved yet, because last I heard that it was getting very close. But this is the longest building permit process I've ever.
I think it should come back to the council. So if we're asking for a vote as to whether it should be back before us, I think it should at this point, because I'm past the patient time, or the time that I think as a mayor, I should sit back and just allow this to happen without, I mean, there's too many questions to this whole process that I feel are not being answered. And I feel like in the end of this, we're being taken advantage of as a city. I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's something that we as a council should sit back and allow. So, but like I said, it's up to you to make that decision if we continue.
Put that on, we could bring back some facts and some options to the council at October 13th meeting.
Is that something?
Yes.
And Dozer, you had a question.
If we don't do something, we're gonna end up with something we don't want. And, you know, that's one of the most beautiful spots in town. And looking at the plans they had, it was a monolith, giant building that's gonna block the view and completely disrupt the beauty of the lakefront there. So if we don't do something, then we're gonna get something we don't want. So I'm all for doing whatever we can do.
Well, and the people on Lake Shore unanimously don't want that. I'm not saying that.
And that's not even the fact here, guys. If they followed the rules, I'd be all game. But they broke up so many times, I can't even tell you. And we're sitting here wondering whether they're even gonna do it at all. And I have to ask myself, am I representing the people in this community by letting this continue to go on? Or not? So I have to make a stand on that. So I'm willing to do that, but like I said, it's up to you whether you want to make that same stand.
I'm with you. I'd say bring it back.
Yeah,
I just-
let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
I think just a better clarification of the situation would be really helpful too.
It would be.
Just because the apartments are allowed down there, just not on the bottom floor. And a clearer explanation of how the Senate bill impacts our code amendment that we made, changing that. Because we made a code amendment just after they passed that, got that approved. I guess what I would like to hear is what happens if the same application comes in right now? Brand new one in the same zone, what's that gonna look like? And I think that'll clarify a lot of things for the discussion too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Remember that.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, I think that's all we have tonight on that part. So we will move along to public hearing.
You scroll, I'm sorry that there's not like fast links in your agenda this time, but if you go to page 55 in the packet.
All right. Page
All right.
55 in the packet. Everybody got that on there?
Yep. From there.
Okay, so I will close the city council and open the public hearing.
Correct. And we don't need to read the statement.
Yeah, because we're already in it from the last. Let's continue.
Okay. So basically what we've heard from council in prior discussion is that any harm to existing businesses was not ever the intention. But we did want to manage the impacts of the cannabis industry and any new businesses coming into the campus. So we have learned a lot over this past many months of process. And there's some options presented in the packet, or in the staff report. And I don't know where Carrie, is Missy available? Can we promote her? And you know what? I did not make her a panelist, so I don't know if can you promote her to panelist? In that little.
Yes.
Right, because we cannot. So she can talk, if you go on to the other, like over on the white, can you promote her to panelist? No, I'm sorry, Missy,
I'm on.
All right.
He is a
Oh,
panelist.
there you go. There you go.
Thank you for
All
doing
right.
that.
Thank you. All right, so I'm not sure if you want to just take over here and walk through the options that we had come up with.
I
Or if you want-
had about a 20-second delay and
Okay.
so I think I heard the last thing. Can you just repeat, Melanie, the last thing that you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I had just said that what we'd heard from the council is there was never an intention to harm any existing businesses in the campus when we were working on limitations to cannabis industry in our M1 zone. However, we did want to manage any negative impacts that were taking place out there, which we had worked on with our odor control in a different ordinance and in a nuisance ordinance. And so now we have some options going forward with this particular ordinance that we've been talking about for quite some time. So would you like me to go through those or would you be willing to do that, Missy?
Whatever you prefer. I'm happy to.
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, thanks. So when we last left this topic, the council was we were all understanding that a prohibition such as the one that's under discussion does need to be referred to the voters at the next general election. And that the state statutes, the marijuana statutes, protect existing producers as non-conforming uses, but that existing processors would not be protected. And so if the outcome of the vote is to uphold the ordinance that bans marijuana uses in the city, those processors would, the outcome of the election would take effect on January 1st, 2027. And then after that, those processors would phase out of business. The council asked the staff to come up with a number of existing licensees in the city. I believe that number is 8.
Yes.
Many of the existing licensees actually hold a variety of licenses. So there's a couple that have processor and wholesaler, and I think maybe one producer. I don't have that spreadsheet up. So I think the way that my recollection from the last meeting and then from talking to Melanie and the staff is to see if the city council does want to go forward with adopting the ordinance, but perhaps delay the effective date so that existing businesses can still renew their licenses pending the outcome of the election. Or and if the city council wanted to do that, Carrie and I would recommend that we give it 1 more month and work on the ordinance language so that it's extremely clear. Actually, no matter what the outcome tonight, we'd recommend 1 more month to make the language really clear about what the city's doing.
Okay. So are there any comments or questions?
Just want to clarify. You had a phone call with the OLCC to verify that. Was this through the email communication that Melanie shared with me?
That was the email communication, correct. Never did get through on the phone.
Okay. And what you got from the email was that they would not be able to renew?
No, the OLCC person that I talked to is like a senior policy analyst. And her opinion of the process that OLCC would use is that because a land use compatibility statement isn't required to renew licenses, a LUX, it's called, that the OLCC would in fact renew those licenses.
They would.
They would. That opinion is just flatly inconsistent with the language of both the marijuana statutes and OLCC's own rules, as well as flatly inconsistent with the League of Cities guidance on this issue. The council could choose to rely on that. The issue is that when state agencies and even local governments give out incorrect information, they're not responsible for that incorrect information. So we would want to make sure that the council understood the risk in an outcome that they didn't anticipate.
Can I just read it so everyone hears what the response is? Is that okay?
Yeah.
To read it? Okay. It says, I spent some time last week communicating by email. They don't answer the phone with OLCC Senior Policy Analyst Amanda Borup.
Borup.
Or I don't have my reading glasses, so about whether an existing license holder could renew their license, both one during the intervening time period between adoption of the ordinance banning new processors and producers and the November 2026 election, and two, if a ban was approved by the voters. The analyst was very clear that OLCC cannot make legal advice. However, the policy analyst's opinion is that if the amendments to the city zoning ordinance explicitly allow existing processing and production license holders as permitted uses even after the ban, grandfathered licensees, OLCC would renew those licenses for those license holders. She mainly relied on the fact that a Lux is not required for renewals, but didn't address my specific questions about the language of the statute and the rule that upon ordinance adoption, ORS 475C.9503 requires the city to send a copy to OLCC, so the OLCC is aware of the ban. The policy analyst did say that this situation where a city has previously allowed marijuana businesses and then adopted a ban has happened only a handful of times in the state, so no one is sure how it works. I want to emphasize that the OLCC is not bound by basically that they're not bound to it. It wasn't legal advice, but what I took from was that they would be able to renew their licenses as long as we're explicit that we're not looking to impact them. So like the current license holders, if the language in the change in the code states that the current license holders are not to be impacted by the code amendments, that was my understanding of it. I guess, you're saying that they said that, but the legal risk is that it's not a for sure thing?
Correct, because, thank you, Counselor. The reason is that is just one person's opinion who maybe in January 2027 isn't with OLCC any longer. I think that email also did mention that there is a process to ask a state agency for a formal interpretation of a statute or rule that would be much more official and likely more binding if the city wanted to go that route.
Did they mention a timeline for that decision?
The formal
Or
interpretation.
for the interpretation?
I'm not completely familiar with the formal interpretation process. I would say, maybe 3 to 4 months. We would have to look into that a little bit more. But I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's great. It's always really wonderful when you hear the answer from a state agency that you're hoping to hear. But, I guess Carrie and my job is just to make sure that the council understands that the state agencies are not going to be bound by that if it's incorrect, if that person is just plain wrong. Didn't consult with their own counsel, for example. Like if it were me having worked for a state agency and there was a pretty large question like this, I would probably contact, if I was the OLCC, our DOJ counsel and ask them, what do you think about this language? Am I looking at this the right way? And I have a feeling their DOJ counsel would say, the statute pretty clearly says that OLCC has to stop issuing licenses if a jurisdiction adopts a ban.
Okay. All right, Missy, stop me, or Carrie, stop me if you think I'm off track, but I think maybe we could go, each individual counselor could stay where they're at. Do you think that what your goal would be to tighten up and beef up our code with the odor control inspections and updating definitions for cannabis, so we have a stronger code to address those situations? And then you could advise us on other situations that might be causing problems that we could work on. So we're working on the issues without legislating or outzoning the businesses. If that's an option, Or if you want it to go to a vote, that would be, I think, Counselor McElroy, you had mentioned that there's no point in really adopting the ordinance now if it's just going to get repealed by the voters. If we don't know what the voters are going to say, but we want to know what the voters would say, yes or no, then perhaps pause until then for moving forward.
I would like to discuss a little bit more. I had some more questions. I
Okay.
didn't want to jump in for anyone else, but I had some more
Right, I think
questions.
others might have ideas.
So it seems like there's three components to this. We're here because of the odor complaints, and I think we've got stuff in the code dealing with that specifically. With the filters and whatever on earth is in there, the inspections and that kind of stuff. So, you know, potentially we can deal with that separately. And go ahead and do that tonight if it's possible.
Could do that.
The other thing is the prohibition. You know, we got the one answer regarding the ability to get a license. It was unclear in the packet where it says the latest renewal date is July of next year. But what's the earliest one if there's eight businesses out there? And it's just rhetorical question right now based on the response or the interpretation we're working with right now regarding the licenses. The revenue issue, just like, you know, we thought one thing regarding the licenses, you know, what's the issue with the revenue then in the short term before we do any prohibition potentially or whatever? You know, the understanding that I was left with last time was that if we have any kind of prohibition, then zero revenue comes through from the taxes. Is that in fact the case? You know, we've got a different response on the license. Maybe there's a different one with the revenue. And finally, I am all for, let's just put this out to the voters and let's do it like now. The next election we have, we can kind of sit tight on the prohibition part. We can enforce the odor part and we can put it to the voters. And then if they decide that they don't want cannabis production and all that stuff in city limits, then our task is clear. And so those three, I'm looking at it in those three windows.
Okay. Anybody else?
So, I mean, if I remember correctly, legalizing marijuana back when, you know, a decade ago or however long it was Estacada voted, I believe it was 58% to 42% to legalize marijuana. And I think that now with, you know, since marijuana usage doesn't have the, you know, dark and ickiness to it that it did, you know, to some people back then, I think that a vote to ban production in Estacada, I think that it would lose probably similar margins, if not a greater margin. So I would hate to see the businesses, you know, I've said it before, the businesses that are doing it correctly, the businesses that are working there that are doing it right. I would hate to see something that we did negatively affect them or phase them out, as what Melissa said. I would hate to see that someone that chose to move into this community and create a business in our community, which is what we're asking for people to do. I would just hate to set a precedent and you know, hurt those businesses. So it's my opinion.
I think there's an important distinction about people being comfortable with people making the choice about whether they want to smoke marijuana or not in a production facility being right next door to your house or your business. I know lots of members in the community that sold their house where they had put all their work into it because a cannabis facility was coming into their neighborhood up Copeland Road. Several people sold because this big production facility is coming there. They probably would have voted to legalize marijuana. I don't know. But it's a lot different conversation than someone that's acting irresponsibly, not taking care of their property, not taking care of the odor, not being good business neighbors. And I'm not, there are some that are doing a great job out there. I'm not saying every facility out there is, but there is a handful of them that are doing a horrible job out there. They don't take care. I mean, and that's from the business standpoint, all the feedback we're getting from business owners down there is that they're not doing their part. And that's where the conversation is. And I think, I just want a clarification, Missy, if we put it to the voters and the voters vote for it to not allow it in the industrial park, every one of those companies loses their license?
If it's a marijuana production license, that is grandfathered under the state statute. And as I said, a lot of the companies have multiple licenses, but so for the processors, they would not be able to renew their existing license when it came up for renewal after January 1st, 2027.
Regardless of whether the language explicitly allowed, so just nothing that the OLCC person, the senior analyst that worked at the OLCC would apply to that? She
The
just,
city could choose to write the language in the ordinance that grandfathers in existing processors. If the ban took effect and a citizen wanted to challenge OLCC's position on that, my assessment is that the language of the statute and the rule are not in the city's favor.
All right. Any other? Jonathan?
I think we were pretty clear that none of our goal is to try to impact current owners or take their livelihood or their means for their family. That was, I thought, made very clear last council meeting amongst all of us. But that being said, we were just asked, well, do we want to look at this and keep it the same or just beef up the rules? I thought we were really clear as a council that we wanted to move the needle forward on this and not keep playing push off and finding things. I think you have a sufficient answer for this that gives us the precedence. Now, that being said, I do think that give it to the vote of the people and let the people speak 100% with you, Jerry. It's their city, right? And their community, and they're the ones at the end of the day that got to live here and stand by it. But when I look at the irresponsibleness on this and why we decided to move in this direction is because it could cost us opportunities and companies and growth and more jobs for our community if it isn't fixed. And I would love for people to honestly ask themselves, what is it that you see or that you want for this community? And when we're making these decisions, is jobs and growth and more opportunity in the industrial park more important than cannabis production? Or is losing a larger company that has a bigger tax base? I think you said our tax revenue from that was like $15,000 or $17,000 or something at the last meeting, if I remember correctly. Is that $17,000 more revenue that we would get from cannabis than we would get from, say, a large company that just built a brand new building in New Mexico to expand their operations if they pull out of their stake here? Because we, for multi-years, have had this ongoing same issue with no result. And I'm sorry, but a decade or 8 years or close enough to a decade, that's a little too much for me. Now, I'm not saying in that regard that I think that every person and everybody should be suffered to this. So I'm definitely, again, to the people, but I would like to see no more putting off or playing games, like be clear with our intent, because it seems like we're kind of playing circles here. 1 minute we got it and we're all in sync. And then the next minute, oh, it's this or it's this and that. And I want to be very considerate to the business owners and the people in here in the room. That's not my intention with that statement. But as leadership, we need to be clear. And what is the direction we're trying to take the city is the question. And what is the direction that our constituents, the people that put us in this position to make these choices, what is the direction that they asked us to go, or they are asking us to go? It's cleaner, safer, more jobs, less travel, more opportunity, grocery stores, things like that, that we will not get if we do not fix this, regardless of the outcome of how it's fixed. We will not get that if it's not fixed. And I would ask every person here to think, what is it honestly that you want in that?
I gotcha. Those.
So we got to this point because of the odor complaints and nothing was done. And so moving forward tonight with the odor components of what we were talking about shows that we're dealing with it now. during this process, we found out that if we were going to do a prohibition, then we needed to take it to the voters. So choosing tonight to have it go to the voters shows our intent. We are interested in prohibiting new cannabis companies. But there's a process to do it. And so by choosing to do that tonight, we are then moving the ball forward. I think it may be unnecessary or whatever you want to use to go ahead with any kind of prohibition component tonight because of the election part. So the odor part, the election part, we're moving forward now, and then we'll see what happens.
So, reading through our options, I don't necessarily like any of the numbered options. I like a combination of A and B, and then I like D. So I like the option of directing staff to limit the number of business license of cannabis within the city, and also the amending the development code for increased odor control, inspections, and update definitions for cannabis. I like a combination of both of those. I don't want one or the other. I would like to see a combination. Limit the number of business licenses allowed, and then update the development code for those items. And then also, if we do want to declare a ban on cannabis, I definitely want it to go to the voters and not a decision to be made by this group right here.
Do we have the ability to suspend any new business licenses for people that aren't already making the investment in the park or in operation in the park until it goes to the voters? Can we legally suspend, can we direct staff not to issue any new business licenses in the industrial park until the vote is decided by the voters?
Missy, that's true. Because that I thought that was one of the options. And then as Missy and I discussed it this morning, it's a little untested.
Can we limit it at the current number that's in there?
That is one of the many, 4 options that we came up with together after the last meeting. I think I mentioned at the last meeting that some jurisdictions are using this tool to limit short-term rentals in their jurisdictions, and with some success. The jurisdictions that have had success in pulling back on business license issuance don't have anything addressing short-term rentals in their zoning code. For Estacada, it's harder because your zoning code is where marijuana businesses are regulated. So it's one of the tools, one of the arrows, I guess, that we put in our quiver that we put together after the last city council meeting to kind of try to tackle this issue.
Can we simultaneously modify the code to make it a conditional use until it goes to election?
That we can do.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be, it just has to be a reasonable time, place, and manner regulation under the statutes. And I do think making it a conditional use is probably okay. But that would be a text amendment. A zoning code text amendment also.
So would that would be a new text amendment that we'd publicly notice and send it back through planning commission, or would that be a revision to this one?
You could still work in the existing one, but it seems like that's getting to be a little bit of a Frankenstein, and it's a big enough change that I think it would fall under the statute that requires DLCD to get notice when a proposal changes enough. It's to enough of a degree that it doesn't reasonably describe the proposal that was already noticed to the community. Then you have to go back and let DLCD know.
To go from a prohibited use to a conditional use for the same thing?
It's
Is
an unknown.
that would be the,
We would just notify, sorry, Missy, we just notify DLCD, but we don't have to start the whole process over again.
okay. So I would just like for tonight, if we said we wanted to make it a conditional use and recommend that staff draw up language to put it on the ballot to let the members of the community decide if they want these type of businesses in the industrial park. We could do that tonight and everything would keep moving forward without having to have 3 months more of. My concern is I'm all for putting it to the people and letting the people decide and let people, both sides make their argument on what that they want in the community. What I don't want to have happen is that industrial park gets flooded with a bunch of businesses going gangbusters so that they can get grandfathered in. And there's an opportunity to do that because there's parcels that are available to be able to do that. So that's my concern. Make it a conditional use that has to get approved, knowing that it's on the ballot for the people that has to get to decide would be my.
So
only-
if I can just say, what is making it have to be referred to the voters? Is it that it's a prohibition? And so if council makes it a conditional use, it's no longer a prohibition. And so it does not have to be referred to the voters then. What I haven't thought about is could the council refer it to the voters under your charter? And Carrie and I would need just a little bit of time to take a look at the charter and see if there's a home rule way to put this issue before the voters.
You can't do both simultaneously. Refer to the voters for prohibition at the same time, making it an amendment to conditional use.
I mean, you could adopt like a springing prohibition. No, because the prohibition is what is requiring it to be referred to the voters. If you make it a conditional use, you're not actually prohibiting it.
Could they pass a resolution that says it's going to go to the voters in November of 2026? So we know it's going to the voters, but it's only going to be changed to a conditional use now. And that way, anybody who is looking at putting a business together out there would say, this is iffy. It could go down in November and they would be less likely to locate into the park until this gets settled. Do you think,
Or could we pass an ordinance referring a prohibition to the voters and make it ineffective until 3 months before the election? So it just sits out there. And if you all decided you didn't want to send it to the voters up until 3 months before the election, we withdrew it. But then it just sits out there, right? But it's not effective. It's passed, but it's not effective. And then if you want to, on a parallel track, do a code amendment to make processing a conditional use prospectively, you could do that. I mean, I don't see why you can't do those two things at the same time, but we can't do it all tonight because we don't have anything drafted.
Understood.
So that would have the added benefit of the first one that sort of gets adopted but then sits on hold is that prohibition. If it has a delayed effective date that's much closer to the election, it would not affect existing license renewals.
It has the assurance of not getting crossways with OLCC because it wouldn't be effective yet.
all right.
I don't want to ignore the developing code to increase odor control inspections and updated definitions of cannabis, though. I don't want to, because if it does not get, if it goes to the people and it does not get voted down, I don't want to have to revisit option B, you know.
Right, so if we leave the code in for the increased odor control inspections and updated definitions for cannabis, that wouldn't be voted on, is that correct?
No, so
It would
that
just be
we'd have,
effective.
it sounds like we'd have 3 ordinances,
Okie dokie.
right? We'd have code amendments for odor control, right? And that goes forward. That just goes on its own path. And it sounds like I haven't heard anybody have any concern about that.
Nope.
So
Okay.
we bring you an ordinance at the next meeting for adoption of that. Then we have this conditional use idea, and that's gonna take a little longer because we gotta notify LCDC and gotta have a public hearing where people are given an opportunity to testify about it. Second ordinance, okay, that goes forward. That will take effect, I don't know, 90 days. I don't know. Faster. Third ordinance is prohibition. That doesn't take effect until September, whatever day our dead, we have deadlines for submitting measures to the ballot, right? So let's say it's September, August, maybe it's August.
I'd say the day after the last license renewal would be better, July 27th, if the last
Okay.
license renewal is July 26th. Just so
Okay.
there's no issue with it getting onto the ballot for a deadline.
Okay, all right, so, but it won't take effect until after the last licensing date. And then it will go on the ballot. And if in the intervening time, the odor mitigation ordinance is going gangbusters and everyone's feeling like you've changed the trajectory of where you're hoping to go, then maybe you pull it off. You rescind the ordinance, or you go ahead and see what the voters think.
Sorry.
But that would give us time. That gives us time. I would like, if you're going to refer this to the voters, I would like to bring the ballot measure language to you. And I'd like for you all to see it. And we haven't done that yet.
Okay. So is this something that could be voted on in this November?
No.
Okay.
Cut off was September 4th.
Plus, it has to go on a general election, which is the even numbered years.
Correct.
I just learned that.
Okay, so how do we feel, people? We all on the same page now?
I think that sounds all right.
I like the conditional use pitch. It protects the current owners and allows them to do due diligence and fix themselves, give them the opportunity to show good faith, right? That seems to be the reoccurring theme. I like that. And it gives us a chance to show them faith that we're giving it to the people. It's not us. This is on the community to decide for them.
All right, and Mike? You good? All right, so we go out of the public hearing, back into the city council, because I've already read the statement. All right, am I game here, or we are on the same page? Okay, so I'm gonna close.
We need motion or?
Well,
Well,
we go back into the city council and then a motion will be made, right?
what do you mean, go back to city council? You mean,
Out of the.
Out of the public hearing.
okay, did you have anybody who wanted to testify?
Do you want to testify? Did you? All right,
Sorry, so are you continuing this public hearing to the next, to a date certain?
We're gonna take testimony, then we're gonna decide.
Okay.
So the one thing I will say is I do appreciate the conversation about everything and not just being willing to go forward and put the axe on all of us and understanding that the OLCC may or may not, come back with some stuff there. On the odor ordinance, like I'm in full support of that. Again, I spoke previously on this, that I've, been doing consulting for years on the compliance side of stuff for cannabis businesses. And the people who are doing it right, you shouldn't be smelling it, all day long when you're outside their business. If there's stuff in the garbage, of course, if as people are exiting the building, but, air curtains, carbon filters, all of that stuff should be implemented in any cannabis facility to make sure that you're keeping the odor down for everybody outside. And I'm in full support of that. I will say that, maybe there are some people who were grandfathered in before the odor, controls went into place. It would be probably helpful if that was enforced, to those people, and that might cut down the smell considerably if the people who don't have the air systems had to put in the air systems. Not a huge cost to put in central AC, and it should solve 90% of your problems. So, thank you.
all right, so
Close the public hearing.
close the public hearing. Reopen the city council meeting and let's hear a motion that works in this case. So that we can continue. Is there gonna be a motion or there's gonna be something that we go forward with tonight?
Can I make a recommendation for motion?
Do it.
I move instructions to staff to proceed with an ordinance, for code amendments to address the increased odor control inspections and updated definitions for cannabis. I move directions.
Still moved. First one was still. moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded on the first. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, go on.
Next motion.
Okay, we're gonna break this into three. I move direction to staff to put forward a code amendment identifying cannabis processing as a conditional use.
So moved.
Move.
Second.
Second.
First, second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Third,
I move to direct staff to develop an ordinance declaring a ban on cannabis production. And including referral of the measure to the voters at the next statewide general election.
Effective July
Uh,
27th, 2026. So moved.
Say that again?
Does it have to have that date included for when it would become effective?
We're gonna propose language. We're not actually adopting the ordinance right now, so
Got it.
we will put that language in the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
first and second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
So, we will be back to you on October 13th with, our progress on these steps. My expectation is the first one, we're gonna have an ordinance and code language. The second one will be as far down the road as we can be. And the third one, we may not, have draft language to you until maybe the end of October
For the prohibition.
for the prohibition portion, because we got to draft ballot code measure, ballot measure language, and that it's gonna take some vetting.
Okay.
And I think we want to talk to the OLCC again.
Oh, definitely.
Can we simultaneously get the clarification from the OLCC? Let's get that
We
process
can
started.
try that. Yeah, we'll definitely follow up with them and see what the timeline is and see what we can do on that front. Because I think you've been very clear about how you feel about existing businesses.
Yeah, and just for clarification, not just if we're doing, but when the voters, the impact, if the language in there is that they're explicitly allowed to stay, the current license holders, what that impact would be when they go to renew their license, if the voters were to vote in support of prohibiting it. Would be
Right.
the clarification question.
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks.
That's right. Okay, I'm gonna move on now. Are we all clear? Everybody's,
So do
okay.
we continue the public hearing?
Yes,
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stay in the last part of the public hearing as an open public hearing, right? So,
Yeah.
okay. All right, I've got that listed. You've got
So,
that
but we
listed.
said we're gonna come back on October 13th
Okay.
with new code language.
Okay.
It will be up to the commission or the council, excuse me, to decide whether they want to take more public testimony. That definitely we're gonna have to take testimony on the second motion, on the second ordinance, the conditional use.
Okay,
But it will be all specified in the packet that goes out
all right,
on the 13th.
all right. It's all clear, everybody's, okay. Moving on, we are at council business, people. Regarding the community group sponsorships that we hand out every year through our budget. Melanie's come forward with an idea that we hand those out during the year to the groups that come forward as needed, rather than do it all at once at the beginning right now. And, and then have people come back later asking us, oh, can you do, yeah, you get the point. But I'll let her explain it to you, what she had in mind.
Yes, we've handled community, and we're on page 89 if you're tracking along in the packet. We've handled community sponsorships in a variety of ways over the years. Last year, it was just a staff review, and it was a smaller amount that was allotted to each group. And as long as they met the criteria, then they were able to receive that. But I think the mayor would like to go ahead and have it come back to council. So really the question for tonight is would the council like to have an open application until all the budgeted funds are dispersed, with the applications being forwarded to council for consideration at the time that they are received? And also earlier in the year, there was an opportunity to sponsor a mobile dental clinic one day in Estacada. They do it in Sandy. They do similar things in Canby, I think. And so would the council like to prioritize a local mobile dental clinic with some of those budgeted funds? And if so, like how much would you want to put towards it? I'm not sure if that's a priority. I know there are a lot of Estacada folks anecdotally that go to Sandy to receive those services, and they're doing one very soon in Sandy. But we could plan it for the spring. Tammy Beatty is the one who kind of spearheads that, and she'd have to, we don't know the details. We don't actually, there's a chance it might not work out, but probably she has her resources and could get one set up for Estacada. So those are, if you look in the discussion section, that's kind of the questions that I'm asking. If that, is that clear, or
Yeah,
you have
that's
more
what-
questions about
How does
that?
council feel about that? I don't know how expensive this proposition would be and how much the funds would be needed to operate something like that. I don't think that's gonna be a very cheap process. And we have a very limited amount that we use for the sponsorships.
We have $15,000 budgeted. It's estimated, it usually costs about $8,500. So the city could sponsor part of that and could reach out to see if there's other donors that would contribute.
I
But-
I like the idea of contributing to this, but I don't like I would like to make this decision with actual facts and with a proposal, with a date, I would like to make this decision with
numbers,
with actual facts in hand, not
And a
this
commitment that it's
might
gonna happen.
happen. Yeah, like this might happen, but it might not. And I don't want to specifically earmark an amount of money for this if saying somebody comes forward, at our next meeting with a better proposal and a better plan. I don't want to commit any money to something that, like I said, I want facts. I want a proposal in hand.
Could we look at a budget? Amend something, bring something out of the budget for this separate than the scholarship funds, because they're very limited as it is. And the amount that people ask for is such a small amount. Taking from that draw to get this going would be kind of a hardship for these groups that can't get any money at all during the year. It seems to me that maybe if we look hard, we can scratch and sniff somewhere in our budget and
Look
come up
for
with something that might work to do this if this were to come forward for real with more numbers and kind of give us an idea what we're dealing with rather than take from the scholarship funds.
We could look for other sources, or we could plan to budget it into the next year's budget specifically for it. I guess I'm wondering, it's a lot of money compared to how much we usually provide to community groups. And so I didn't know if like this was a one-time off, you would want to do that, or if you just want to do, like you said, do part of it, like you do all the other groups, you donate a certain amount. It's usually not the whole amount they need. It's a partial amount to keep them moving forward. And then there's other donors. If you'd rather do that, then they could just she could see if she could work it out, get other donors, come apply for the balance of what she might need to do it.
Mike?
We're looking to change, it sounded like it was like changing the code from like awarding it all at once to awarding it throughout the year. Are we just talking about this one specific, it is a nonprofit?
It is run through it's run through a nonprofit. Usually it's run through, good question, because it's the Seventh-day Adventist Church that runs it in Sandy, and they receive funds. They received funds in the last, they do a 2-year budget. So Sandy did award some of those. It looks like Sandy awards a lot of money, but they do a 2-year budget and they're twice as big as us. So
Is it a nonprofit though?
I
That's operating the event that's charging $8,500.
Is it church and nonprofit? I don't know if it's,
501c5.
it might be a different kind. I'm sure it's a nonprofit, but I don't know if it's 501c3. But we could ask, those are the kind of things we ask in that application. And so if you want us to just go forward with the application that's in the, revise the application in the packet, have them apply when they get a little closer. I just didn't want to like have all the funds disappear and then you say, oh, I really wanted to do that. If you'd like to designate some funds now, let's do it. Otherwise, let's just go through the process of letting people apply.
So we've not yet done this before, correct?
No.
Okay, so what are the odds of, okay, you say we pay the 15,000, right? For 1 day or 85,
It's
sorry.
8,500.
8,500, sorry. And no one shows up to get the service. They don't know about it or know about, I'm just worried about that. Like, what are that's
The odds of that are very slim.
okay. I just want to know,
Yeah.
because if
Usually
people
they
don't
have
know
more
about it.
people show up than they can
Okay.
serve.
Those Yeah, I'm not sure why that needs to be separate instead of, I mean, if they went through the process as described in that first sentence, we would have real numbers when they make their,
Yeah.
when they make their application. And then we either do it or we don't.
And they absolutely could do that. That is, I just didn't want, I thought it was potentially a priority from prior discussions. So I wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity to allow for that, but it definitely, it doesn't have to be a priority. It could be, it could fit in with the rest of the applications. Typically, I think what, a couple of years ago, it was $2,500 limit. I think we've done $1,500 limit before. So that if you do $1,500 limit, that's 10 organizations that could be funded with their programs or projects that benefit the city of Estacada folks.
I'd still be open to hearing more about it. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the idea. I like the idea of them coming and talking to the council too. I'd like, not from a standpoint, I don't think that you can't issue funds. I would just like to see them come and show face. You're gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna come and take funds from the community.
Mhm.
Come and tell us about yourself, introduce yourself, let us know about who you are and what you do. And some of us maybe can privately donate. Some of us may be able to be resources for them, right? Like, so I would definitely like to see them come forward and
So maybe they would just be part of the application process.
Yep.
And we'll have them do that right away. And then otherwise, do you have the council, I think that they should, if they're gonna be more than just like last year, they were the $500. I did $1,000 for the fireworks. But for the most part, it was about $500. And so if it's gonna be a little more, I think maybe coming to the council, having you evaluate, unless you just want staff to have the specific criteria. And then evaluate, but I get the feeling that you all want to take a look at it.
I think we all want to be a part of
Okay.
it. I don't see, I mean, I want to hear what's going on
Mhm.
in my community. I want to know what they're doing. I want to know if it's worthwhile causes. I mean, anytime you let money go without any kind of, expectation for letting us know where that's all going to, what it's
Yeah.
doing for the community, it just
Okay.
wasted. So I think, I think everybody here
Okay.
would say the same thing. They'd
So
like to hear.
we'll get the applications posted. And then as they come in, we'll get them on the council agenda for a review. And I know it's hard because sometimes there's some groups that come that are, not to say it's not a valuable thing that they're doing, but it might benefit a very small group of people. And I think that's hard, to, but you can all weigh that. I know you have good boundaries. You can say, hey, this is worth some support, but maybe this much support, not this much support.
Yeah.
So I'm confident that you can, I don't want to put you in a bad spot
No.
when you're sitting here at the dais in front of everybody.
I don't think you could put these guys in a
Okay.
bad spot.
You're pretty
I
tough.
think they've been there.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, we'll put together an application, or amend the application that is in there. And let people start applying.
all right,
if
thank
they
you.
want to.
So we
Okay.
got direction on that. Citizen committee group comment, any online anymore? No. Okay, mayor council reports and comments. I will start off with Matthew way over there.
I commented on the Lakeshore Apartments earlier, but I wanted to thank everybody that came out. I like seeing it packed in here. I like people coming out and mentioning stuff, talking about cannabis, talking about speeding, talking about what's going on in their neighborhood. I look forward to seeing the new system we have going on with the city count or the city page and seeing the committee's updates and everything put on there. Hopefully that'll help disseminate information a lot better.
All right, those.
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge the Traffic and Public Safety Committee, their work. I've gotten in the habit now of driving through the neighborhoods just to do it because, we're more homebodies, but to get out and see what everyone's talking about. And so actually did drive along, I think it's that Kern Creek, whatever that one going all the way through is. And the number of signs, the number of those little orange things that have not necessarily suitable language or that sort of thing. But then the point, I mean, there was a whole ton of kids playing basketball and that kind of stuff. So, the effort of the Traffic and Public Safety Committee is definitely having an impact. Also though, I measured, going down Eagle Creek and there's about a half mile of new subdivisions coming. And, I don't know how deep it goes, but and we know this already, there's a ton. And so this traffic stuff is going to keep coming up. And, Hillway was, I think we did a lot of good work. I know it may seem a little bit like a whack-a-mole, as these people come and they start talking about their neighborhoods. We're going to see more and more of that. I think we're getting a good handle of what the issues are though, and I think we should be able to use that knowledge that we're gaining right now to make things easier as these new neighborhoods come on board. I was going to, and this ties into what I really wanted to mention, and that is, this summer, it seems like there's a whole lot more homeless people, or potentially, I'm not even sure. I'm seeing battered trailers, battered motorhomes. I'm seeing all sorts of people walking around that don't necessarily look like they're citizens here. The vandalism on the street, I wasn't actually sure if that was a crime, but apparently it is when you're vandalizing the street. I'm seeing that all over the place. You could get in these stickers over on mailboxes, so other types of vandalism. And then of course the speeding. And so I know that we've got another officer coming on board. I know it's one of our goals, maybe going into next year, to see what increasing our law enforcement presence looks like. But I would really like to have something, some real data, some parameters, or, if we hit population X, let's get another officer. If we hit whatever the parameters are, but I would really like to see that sort of stuff in place by the end of this year, so that we've got a plan. Because it's just, there's going to be more coming. And I would also be very interested to know, I remember when Chief Mendoza was talking about, the county has specific traffic enforcement. I think they're motorcycle cops. And he almost said, be careful what you wish for, because they're really good at it and they're going to really nail people. Well, you know what? Can we look at that? I mean, can we look at it like a short-term contract maybe, or I don't know what it looks like, but, maybe bring them in just in addition to what we have, bringing, that unit in for a month or something like that. I don't know. I'm just looking, I think the last 5 or 6 meetings, we've had so many people show up. And all of us know that this is an issue. So here's some things that we can do now. Yep. So
I'm in
Okay.
agreement with you on that one. Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I want to thank the council members this time first and just say, man, I enjoy coming here and having conversations with people that are about doing stuff. There's dreamers and doers in the world, and doers are the winners. And so I want you to know that I really respect each one of you and for your opinions, whether I disagree with you or agree with you. I appreciate that you stand up for this community for whatever reasons it is for you personally. I appreciate that you're a figure for my child and these kids to look up to see that people mean something and that your actions matter and that you can do something, right? So thank you guys, first of all. And then the community, you guys showed up tonight and you brought forward your complaints and your criticisms and your feedback. And that's all we've been asking you for as long as I've been on this. So please, please, please keep coming. And that, forgive me, I'm terrible with names, but that one of the comments was about what can we do? And I really want to emphasize what you can do is come and do what they did tonight and share and talk to us and tell us what's going on and what we're missing, because we can't represent your interests if we're not aware of it, right? And don't assume because you've told Joe, Bob, and Tom on Facebook about something and your feelings about something, don't assume that that's been told to us in a way that's been reciprocated, okay? Or in a way that we understand. Please come and tell us for yourself so that we can hear it from you and we can go back and forth with you. That's what we want. We want to hear from you. So please continue to show up. I thank you for those that did. And then I just want to say that I really appreciate seeing this community start to take shape and start to take accountability for themselves. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think that we should all be very proud of the direction that we're going, regardless of the speed bumps that come. So
Yeah.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to make a shout out to our Rangers this year. They started their new school year, and I gotta tell you, there's nothing more refreshing than going to one of their games. I went to cross country and a bull run, right? So the elk run, sorry. I'm just thinking bulls right now. It's elk season. And I can't tell you how amazing it is to see the camaraderie between youth. And it is so refreshing because I was able to take that home with me and talking to my niece London, and just the way that they are with each other is something that we can take away from them and apply that to our everyday life. And I just, yeah, I love it. And then I watched a softball game, and ironically enough, they were playing Estacada. I was watching Colton and those little kids, they're like 7, 8 years old, and they're just amazing. They're larger than life. And again, I couldn't stop thinking, I want to bottle this up and give this to every adult on the planet right now, because that's what we need. And I'll just leave you all with that.
Nice. Mike?
I was excited to see the room packed again, and appreciated how all the members of the community expressed the things that they are having challenges with in a respectful way. It's really easy we want to hear all of it, but it's really nice when people can articulate it in a respectful manner and just are concerned about their communities. I appreciate that. Everyone that came in and did that. I have some of the same concerns about the increase in the transient community, running into people doing not so much just people that are inebriated walking down the street, like intoxicated, dancing in the middle of the street. It started to look a lot like other communities that I don't want to ever see Estacada become. So I'd like to hear from, as a new officer comes on and the new chief, maybe get them in to see what they're doing actively to consensual contacts with people that look like they're inebriated. We had people on some of our property that were setting up tents and with drug paraphernalia, and then we had to kick multiple people off the property up there. It seems to be, at least in the last couple of weeks, a lot more people that I don't recognize around town. Not that I know every person in town, but a lot of the people that I'm seeing I've never seen them before. They look spun out of their mind. They're doing weird stuff in the middle of the street, and we've got kids walking all over the community. So I'd like to see some active policing on that. And I'm sure they're doing a lot. I just want to hear about what they're encountering and what they're doing on the street. And just appreciate everybody tonight. Thank you very much for the staff and for our council that was here to help us get through those amendments with the motions. Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to start my comments acknowledging Connie Redmond. I don't know if you guys noticed how many hats she put on and took off tonight when she sat up there, but if there's a person that could legitimately get Volunteer of the Year every year, it would be Connie. But she's not about that. She doesn't need it. But she's an amazing person, and just the amount of effort that she puts in, not just being part of that many different organizations, but the amount of effort that she gives to each and every one of those organizations it's amazing. And the work that she puts in on the Downtown Estacada Commission is just, you guys wouldn't believe, the amount of time and effort she puts in. And I'm sure that because of Connie and the other members of the Downtown Estacada Commission, this Oktoberfest is going to be amazing. But that lady doesn't get enough recognition, and I just wanted to get it out there. She's awesome, and we need more people like her in our town, because she's pretty amazing. I appreciate you guys and the discussion that we had tonight. I really think that we progress. We're not stagnant on the marijuana issue. We progressed tonight. And the discussion here tonight between all of us got us to that progression. I'm really happy with where we're sitting on that, and look forward to seeing, seeing the difference that it makes, the three different ordinances that'll be coming up makes in the, in the industrial complex. I really look forward to seeing what the outcome of that is. Thanks staff for all the amazing work again. This packet was good, easy to read. I read it, didn't really have any pertinent questions, anything that I needed to, bring up. It was good. So, but most of all, I want to thank the community for coming out. We need to hear what the problems are, and the only way that we can hear what your problems are is for you to come and tell us. And again, I said it earlier tonight, but the easiest thing that you can do to help with the speeding problem is, when you're driving through a neighborhood, drive through it like you would want them to drive through yours. I said it earlier, it starts with us. It starts with us as individuals. It's your decision whether you're going to respect that other neighborhood like you want them to respect your own. So just, I heard something once that the type of person you are isn't always about what you do in public, but it's what you do when no one's looking. So that really resonated with me. And I think that in a situation like this, just because there's nobody looking doesn't mean that it's okay for you to, go. Just because there's nobody on the road doesn't mean that it's okay to turn a 25-mile speed limit to a 50-mile-per-hour speed zone. But, we've been having this problem for a long time. I remember the discussions on Shafford Road when, it was a speedway. And so we took out stop signs, we put in speed humps, we put stop signs back in, and then that turned Pierce into Pierce. Is that the next road over?
Yep.
Yeah, Pierce turned Pierce into a speedway, which is even more dangerous because it's right next to two schools. So, this is an ongoing discussion. It's an ongoing work in progress. And I really think that we are making progress and we're making steps in the right direction. So thank you all for that.
Okay, wow, looks like they were well-rounded in the room tonight. Everything, all of them said, double or nothing, I'm on that. The criminal element in town has risen to a point that concerns me, and I think we need to address it quick and in a hurry before it gets any worse. So I would like to sit down with our legal and see what we can do to make it harder for some of these things to happen. If we need to look at some of our code, whatever the case may be, and sit with law enforcement and figure out where we're all at.
You have an
have
appointment
a
with the
meeting.
new chief.
That's right.
I don't remember what day it is, but it's coming up.
Yeah. And I just want to thank legal tonight. They definitely earned their money tonight. They were on every question we had. So we appreciate you and thank you very much for that, Gary. And of course, staff. It was a well put together a packet. We got through it, broken leg and all. I'm still sitting here. My leg is throbbing, but it was well worth it. You all had a lot to say and you all did the job that you were elected to do in this seat. And I expect nothing less. So thank you for that, and the community for showing up tonight, and the community that helped me. I've been down and out a few weeks, and a lot of people came and gave me food and helped me out. I really want to say thank you for that. Because, as the person and the mayor that I am, I never thought that I would be in a position where I needed people. And I was there, and you were there. So thank you. This meeting is adjourned.